Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an Airbus pilot, and welcome to our next live stream. Today we are flying from MK Studios, brand new Helsinki, and we are going to fly over to Madeira for a lovely, almost long-haul operation in the Finnair Airbus A321. Quite a couple of you guys have asked me to do some flights from Helsinki, and with the new scenery, I think it's absolutely time that I comply with your requests. So, at this point, let's go ahead and get right into this. And by the way, a very quick sorry for those 3 minutes delay starting the stream, but as you guys know from our ACAS operations, 3 minutes are no minutes, so there's no actual delay involved over here, is there? I know. Pilots always have some good excuses, don't they? Okay, so follow me inside and we are going to start setting our Airbus up right away. Now, a few words over here before we get started. First of all, let me get that sound on. That might actually be an idea. So, a couple of basics over here. Airbus A321 with 2 additional center tanks installed in the aircraft, otherwise we would have some problems with the range over here, as you are going to see when we analyze the flight plan in just a few moments. At this point also hello to everyone in the chat, welcome everyone, and then I suppose we are gonna get started with this straight away by a quick look into our flight plan. So let's pull that one up. And here we are. This is the flight plan for today's flight, Finnair 1731. Now, starting with our route of flight, we are leaving Helsinki across the Baltic Sea, Sweden, Denmark, Germany, then we're going down into Belgium, France, Spain, and then Portugal, crossing the Atlantic towards Madeira. Now, the significant weather chart for today's flight has a little bit of low-level icing over here, moderate icing below flight level 220. Then going on into the second half of our flight, the Bay of Biscay also has some low-level stuff, crossing a jet stream over here, and then again low-level stuff close to Madeira as well, with icing below flight level 120. Now, since the question does come up every now and then, what do the axes mean down here? That basically tells us from level 120 down to the end of the chart, which as we can see down here is flight level 100. So that icing may continue below level 100, or it may as well stop over there. Alright, and as always guys, no spam in the comments please, otherwise I will have to remove you from those comments. Thank you very much. Alright, so let's have a look into the weather and what we're expecting today. Departing Helsinki, we've got southerly winds, the runway in use is runway 22, temperature 2 degrees and temporary broken clouds. We will probably have to de-ice the aircraft today because of the fact that the airplane has just arrived, and in that type of weather I'm 99.9% sure that some ice would have accumulated on the airframe. So we will be removing that icing on our way to the departure runway. Now next up we got Madeira itself, and Madeira, as you can see, beautiful weather, 030 at 11, and the weather's pretty much going to stay that way, with a slight chance of some temporary thunderstorms moving through, which we have seen on the significant weather chart down here as well. If you look at the slightly later chart, or rather at the higher chart, it is a little bit easier to see. Down here we got that area of occasional CBs that is probably moving up into Madeira. Now, that much about our destination, our alternate Porto Santo, beautiful weather conditions, so very easy going. Now, let's go ahead and have a look into the top of our plan. Departing at 9:55, which is of course not the real world time that we have right now, but it is the correct realistic time where the real flight operates. And we're going to get back into Helsinki roundabout by the time that we are going to finish the live stream in the real world here as well. So flight level 320 is our first cruising level, then we have that small step to level 340 at Maastricht, only to descend to 330 right thereafter. In other words, we're going to maintain 320 and then step up to Raskar. flight level 330, and then later on we got flight level 350 here at Vavix. And that's pretty much all the step climbs that we've got today. So going down a little bit into the flight plan, we've got our fuel section, and the planned takeoff fuel is 19.1, giving us fuel for 6 hours and 44 minutes. We have to take a little bit extra because, as you can see, final reserve plus alternate does not equal a minimum of 1 hour, and with an airport like Madeira we absolutely want to have that 1 hour, so we're going to add an additional 500 kilos here for that, plus taxi fuel. So hey, why don't we just round it up to 20 tons of fuel, and then we should be good to go. Now 20 tons I think is a solid decision over here. And Captain McG in asking in the comments, are we going to de-ice with the GSX? We will try that. We'll see how good it is going to work. Let's see. And Brain Lima, I'm doing this exact same flight now with the exact same call sign, Finnair 1731 on VATSIM. Oh wow, nice. Luckily we are not going to conflict with the call sign though, because looking at Flight Radar 24, let me show you that one right up here. Looking at Flight Radar, the flight number is 1731, but the call sign is Finnair 36 Mike. So for that reason, I'm logged in as 36 Mike, you're logged in as 1731, so we are not going to conflict with one another. Loving it. And Elton, no, we're not going to wait until the event starts for our departure, but we will certainly arrive within the event. That's the plan for the day. Dennis, the new scenery is for Helsinki. That's MK Studios, Helsinki V2. And just looking up here into the terminal, they've done quite the job on all those interiors. However, something that is worth mentioning is that they've done a superb job on the interior parts of the passenger terminal, but for some reason all the glass panels that are down here on the baggage handling side of things are just black, which I really hope they are going to improve. But that's just something that I think is worth pointing out over here. And Unip, yes, VATSIM does do de-icing operations, so you could always request that. Adrian, excellent question there. I'm glad you do the flight in real operations time instead of sim time. Is that more realistic? Yeah, I do agree that it is more realistic. Especially because obviously we're not going to spend 5.5 hours sitting there in cruise. We are going to use time acceleration. So the way that I always do my flight sim flight is to set the correct real-world time of the flight. Departure is at 9:55, by the way, so in 24 minutes. So I always set the correct real-world time of the flight, and that way, in my opinion, it's more realistic. And Leo Gui, any plans to join the Paris event tomorrow? Perhaps. I gotta put it that way because my parents do want to come around. Depending on the weather though, so if my parents are here I'm obviously not gonna do that. Alright, nonetheless, let's go ahead and do a little bit of ops over here. So flight plan is downloaded, Finnair 36 Mike in 23 minutes. Now we've already decided on the fuel quantity and that we want to take 20 tons over here. So let's go ahead and apply and load that. We are going to use GSX for everything, and well then, let's get started. So the engine master levers are off, mode selector norm, weather radar is off, landing gear lever is down, the wipers are off, and since the temperature is below 3 degrees, I am going to turn the probe and window heat on already. Alright, so batteries are on with more than 25.5 volts. We're operating on the APU because otherwise it would just be too cold. But if we do have a quick look down here, then we can see lovely 23 degrees inside the aircraft while it's 2 degrees on the outside. Alright, ADRs 1, 2 and 3 are coming on. Those might take a little bit of time to align because we are that far up north here in Helsinki. Then APU fire test is looking good. Like that, perfect. Alright, then let's move down into the FMS over here real quick. Let's go for the ATSU. Then we got the AOC menu, flight init, and data requests. At the same time, we can go back into the EFB, and this one's going to be interesting. Helsinki to right. Now, current weather shows us a dry runway. However, I'm 99.9% sure it is gonna be wet, because we've had snow here in Helsinki like all day long. So yeah, there's always that to take care of. Now, lots of questions coming in the chat down there. Thomas, yes, this is going to be a 2-sector live stream. I do plan to fly back as well. Now let's go ahead and take the intersection figures, and that looks good. 309 meters stop margin. Actually, we do need engine anti-ice on. Let's calculate that again. Here we go, 33 degrees flex, takeoff speeds are looking good. Very large split between V1 and VR, but yeah, so be it. I'll have to live with that. I will answer a lot of the questions about real-world flying and stuff when we are en route. Just keep them for then. We do have an hour cruise per sector today. Alright, so that much about our initial stuff here. Now, SIDS 2 to right are here already. We don't need the code Foxtrot charts. Ground chart is here. And then we also need the... I think it's apron 1 through 4. Let's have a look at that chart, see what that is. Yeah, that's where we are. Stand 29. Alright, do we have any charts for the de-icing apron? Probably not. But we don't need to, because it's up here and there's an inset on the main AGC. Perfect. Alright, lovely. Then we are done with the EFB for the time being. So let's move right down here. Aircraft's technical status, press and hold recall for 3 seconds. Interesting. Those should definitely not be there. Yeah, I can tell you why they are there though. That's because I loaded the plane at the gate and, well, obviously you can see I had to play a little bit with my controls to assign everything with a new WinWing stick. Now everything works, but that caused a couple of warnings which I simply cancelled. Obviously those should not be coming up right now, so I am just going to clear them again and remove status. Alright, here we go. Perfect. Okay, so that stuff is done. And Alexis, yep, the runway is 100% wet in Helsinki. I live 5 kilometers from the airport and it has rained, water and snow has melted. Oh yeah. Expected that. With a temperature of 2 degrees, definitely gonna be freezing conditions today for the operations. Now, let's go ahead. Oxygen is looking good. Then we got the hydraulic quantities, which are full. Engine oil quantities are full, and they absolutely have to be for today's flight. Let's actually see. 21 is not completely full. Let's just quickly go down here. MCDU menu, maintenance, ground service, I think. Or not. But tell you what, we can definitely connect the ground power down here. Saves a little bit of fuel. The question is, can we refill the oil somewhere over here? And honestly, I'm not 100% sure if we can. Never really had to think about that in the Phoenix, but looks like we can't. Or is it on a config? Maintenance? Nope. Okay, that's fine. Then we just have to keep the oil the way it is right now. It should be doable. It should only become a problem if we have to divert somewhere. But on the other end side, we can always get maintenance for A320 aircraft pretty much everywhere. So that's nothing I'm too worried about. Alright, the flaps are up and that agrees with the lever. Ground spoilers are retracted. Then we can release that park and brake and do the ultimate brake check. And that's looking good. And park and brake is set again. Alright, perfect. Looks good to me. Then they have started the boarding already. Refueling still in progress. Alright. So with that, our preliminary cockpit preparation is complete. Now, I would say, you, my friend. Yeah, you don't have to look away. You're going out for the walk around in this type of weather. Certainly not me. Alright, so starting with the cockpit preparation procedure then. I don't know who left this aircraft, but they left it in a mess, like the crew supply should have been off, or the voice recorder on, that kind of stuff. Looks like the previous crew didn't take the SOP all that seriously. Oh, we do have a mode selector fault down here, but we're still refueling. Let's wait until the fueling is complete. And then we're going to deal with any kind of engine-related stuff or fuel-related stuff. Alright, that's looking good. Down here, everything is looking good. We gotta make sure that we are recording the PAs though. And that is selected. Lovely. Alright, great. Then down to the main panel. Let's see what our weather is looking like. We got a QNH of 1008. So set once, set twice, and set 3 times. Alright, down here everything's set. 20th of November 25 is correct. So down here 1228 is active, 1215 is also active, and the interphone weather radar is set, the middle is set, and the right side is set. Perfect. Well then, let's go right into our FMS setup here. So, summary flight plan. I just wish we could put the EFB down here on the table or something the like, so in order to have our flight plan readily available when we are doing work down here, but so be it. Alright, cool. So, first things first, let's go into the ATSU and see if there is any ATIS available. Echo Fox Hotel Kilo, departure from VATSIM, send. If there is none, we already have the METAR, so we are good to go like that. Noel T, is there any GSX profile for the new scenery? Yeah, there is. Okay, so low treat, Finnair 36 Mike from Hell to Funchal on the Oscar Hotel Lima Zulu Hotel. Let's just see. Yeah, that rec is correct. 2 pilots, 5 cabin crews, 70.1 tons, 0 fuel weight, takeoff weight 89.1. Now the big question, is that including our fuel order? No. So let's take the other one. So that's looking better. That's still the same aircraft, still the same cabin crew. Takeoff weight is now about 90 tons. That's looking good. And we got the correct CGs. 209 passengers are expected, evenly distributed through the airplane, and 100% portable water, which is rather important to refill that over here for such a long flight. And I'd say with that, fuel in tanks 20 tons is looking good. We can accept this. Alright, now for the ATIS. No ATIS available, that's fine. So, data, aircraft status, A321-200, V2500 engine, nav database is up to date. And Petra asking, will we need de-icing? Yes, absolutely. For the FO as well. Alright, cool. So let's continue down here. Flight data request, and on the way. Now, Fuong asked a bit earlier if the A350 performance from Inibuilds is similar to the 330. It is a little bit worse, to be honest. Elton, what would you guess would be your arrival time back in Helsinki? Want to do a flight from Copenhagen? It would be nice to arrive around the same time. I'd say between between 8 to 9 p.m. UTC. So between 20 to 2100 UTC. And Iron, you can open the Phoenix EFB from the MSFS EFB. That's a good point. Let's actually do that. Phoenix EFB. Yeah, that is a very good suggestion, Iron. Never thought of that. But yeah, we absolutely can do that. So, Phoenix EFB, pilot brief. Here we go. Excellent. Alright, so we are the Finnair 36 Mike. Our cost index is 15, flight level 320, and the temperature up there, let's see, is minus 56. A little bit colder than standard. Ground temperature is 2. Okay, so Helsinki, departure, runway 22 right towards Nunto. Nunto for November, here it is, and insert. Alright, for Madeira we are going to arrive with the RNAV 05. Now I keep forgetting which one it is. Let's actually quickly look it up. With the approach charts, Madeira, start. I think it's RMP Alpha, but let's see. Yeah, it is RMP Alpha. So, RNAV Alpha, and then let's see, our route is the Raccoon 1 Papa. I do like that name. So, Raccoon 1 Papa via Pilim is already selected. Beautiful, insert. Now, for the emergencies, we are gonna fly towards X. I think it's 5, no 6 for this runway. Not 100% sure, it doesn't matter if we get that one wrong. It's an internal name anyway. So, based on Helsinki 2 to right, and for our charts, let's have a look. Ground chart. Oh, that's the wrong airport. So, Helsinki ground chart, and we don't need the code Fox chart. So, runway track 217. And 25-mile range. Oscar, welcome as an economy class member to the channel. So, Helsinki 2 to right is in here. Now let's go for the emergency point, enter that, Hel X6, and we can insert that with a holding, 217 right turn and 1 minute lag time. Looks good, and then immediate return, Echo Fox Hotel Kilo. Helsinki arrival, 22 left for the approach, and that is looking good. Alright, so just a very quick look, and yep, that is fine. Now back to the flight plan and the fix info page. On here we need our departure runway, so Helsinki 22 right, insert with a 217 radial, and then we also need the emergency waypoint Hel X6, and here it is. And Darren, do you use Navigraph or Lido charts? I pay for Navigraph, is it worth it? Yeah, I absolutely think Navigraph is worth it if you're not exclusively doing airliners. Or if you just love PMDG because PMDG only supports Navigraph at the moment. Lido charts are nice for airliner operation, but Lido focuses on airports that are covered by airlines. So if you've got some nice general aviation aircraft as well, or if you do like to fly, you know, out of the box, then Navigraph is a must. And of course you still need the Navigraph data to update your FMS, so there's always that. Okay, so zero fuel weight is 70.1. And likewise, if you like flying in the US, pretty much all US airlines are using Jeppesen charts, so Navigraph charts. Alright, 20 tons of fuel. And then let's find the fuel figures. So we got contingency 0.5, alternate 1.1, and final reserve 1.3. So average wind component is a 5-knot headwind, like that. And then let's go down into the flight plan, because we do have a couple of step climbs to insert here. So, starting level 320, we said we wanted to omit the step climb at Maastricht, so Raska flight level 330 is going to be next. So, 330 at Raska, and then we'll need 350 at Wavix. Alright, and insert. So now we should get sensible fuel prediction, and it tells us 1.7 extra, which equals 50 minutes of flight time. Beautiful. And Leo, you are absolutely right. The key difference between Jeppesen charts and Lido charts is that they simply display things in a different way. So the way that Jeppesen displays things is really, you know, focused at, I don't want to say non-ANAV operation, but Lido is very much focused to fly with an FMS while Jeppesen is focused on flying with a broad range of navigation systems. I think that's the best way to say this. And future A320 pilot, you will be able to watch the stream in the aftermath at any point, so if you can't watch it completely now, then you can always just watch it later. So, why did it not take over any of my previous calculations here? Here we go. But quite different figures. Anti-ice should be on. Here we go. So, a flaps 2 takeoff, 33 degrees flex temperature. Now the question is the runway contaminated? I would say probably not. If it's dry right now, they are so good with de-icing here, because they're just used to doing it all the time. So we're just gonna keep it this way. So 138, 157, and 158. Noise abatement procedure 2 is already in there. Engine out as well. We don't need to pre-select anything. And finally, Helsinki 22 right for here. Cruising level 320, optimum level 320, maximum 340. That looks good. Now, last but not least, let's see if we can save the route. Nope, nothing happens. Let's try if we give it a name. Should just give itself a default name there otherwise. But no, that's not working. Alright, so be it. Then let's go ahead and cross-check our SID, and after that we are done. So, ANAV SID's runway 22 right. No, that is not a SID, that is an airport. Future 320 pilot, please do ask me that again as soon as we're en route, okay? Because I want to depart first, and once we're in the air, then we got time to answer all those questions. Okay, so straight ahead to 2.5 DME Hell above 680, and that's the Hell 3 point. Now let's go ahead and view that up here as well. Plan mode like that. Alright, this actually is a very nice view. This actually is a very nice view. I like that. Okay, so then it's gonna be 273 inbound to waypoint 451, and that's what we got in here. 237 I should say. Actually no, 273. Inbound 451. Yeah, course 273 451. Okay, that's correct. Alright, then we continue on 237. See, that's how easy it is to mix up the numbers, but there it definitely says 237. Up here it was 273. Okay, inbound to waypoint 926, maximum 250 knots, and thereafter we continue towards Nunto. Now we do need a SID PT chart for that one as well. This was called ANAV SIDs to do right. Let's go ahead and pin that one. Now it just takes a little bit of time to actually find the correct chart here. Here it is, Nunto 4 November, initial climb, altitude 4000. Alright, I'll set 4100 until ATC clearance is received. When passing 1500, contact Helsinki radar. Climb gradient due to airspace restrictions, close-in obstacles exist, but as we can see there is no problems meeting that. And expect first CBDLC lock-on code EFIN. Okay. That's all noted, and with that we have done our FMS setup. Perfect, so not all that much to do up here. You can have constraints on the right side, and with that our FMS setup is complete. Also looks like fueling is complete, so look at that, the fault on the mode selector is gone now as well. Perfect. Alright, cool. Then we're pretty much done setting everything up down here. So let's have a look at the final load sheet, which has just arrived. Might as well quickly finish this. So, zero fuel weight is 70 exactly. And the CG for this is 26.5. That looks okay. So, takeoff weight 89.8. And up here it is 89.8. Perfect. With 209 passengers on board. So we can accept this. And then we're basically done setting everything up. Thomas, hi. I am not going to use X-Plane anytime soon again. Simulator is just annoying. Alright, so everything's done. Let's see what our synchronized final load sheet figures stay the same. Up trim 0.8. So slash up 0.8. And with that we are done with our setup. Perfect. So all that good stuff is done and out of the way. Then let's go ahead and do our departure briefing, please. So we are departing Helsinki today, runway 22 right. We've got the Nunto for November, initial climb 4000, MSA, let's see what that was again. Come on, load the chart please. MSA 2300, the temperature is still positive, so we don't need to do a cold temperature correction here. And yeah, that's really everything there is. Extra fuel and time, we've got 1.750 minutes. So, for our taxi out, we've got one hotspot, that's the crossing of runway 22 left, then taxi out to the remote de-icing points up here in the north. We've got a stop margin of 300 meters, engine out sits straight at 25. We're above the maximum landing weight, so if we need to make an immediate return, then overweight landing procedure it is. 22 left is more than long enough though, and we can come back immediately if required. The weather is good at the moment. Let's see how good it is though. Yeah, well, we might even fly a traffic pattern in 1000 AGL. Should be possible if the airplane is on fire and cannot be extinguished. Otherwise, we'll just go straight ahead, enter a holding, and then decide on the further course of action like that. Now, I've got nothing non-standard. I've got a couple of specials, though, which is going to be the entire de-icing procedures that we are going to do today. But we'll talk about those in a few moments outside of the briefing. Apart from that, threats? I don't see any, so that's it. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Nope. Alright, lovely. Then we are done with about everything, so let's go ahead and start with the checklist, please. And if you're wondering why I'm speaking so slow, I'm trying to open the FCOM on my EFB over here so that I can actually get the de-icing procedure ready, because in the real world, just like in the sim, we would absolutely do that out of the book. But unfortunately, that thing just started a software update, so I'll just let that do in the background there. Alright, in any case, that's already the briefing completed, so let's do the cockpit preparation checklist, please. So that's gear pins and covers removed. Fuel quantity, we got 19,960 kilos plus 1360 in one of the ACTs, well not plus but including 1360 in one of the ACTs, and that is all balanced. Seatbelts on ADIRS, nav and barrel QNH 1008, reading 160 set left and set right. And that's the cockpit preparation checklist complete. Alright, so my software is finally updated, so let's go right into the supplementary procedure, adverse weather, and airframe de-icing and de-icing on the ground. So we maybe just start with engine operations on ground in icing conditions. Now, we do have icing conditions. Well, not really, to be honest. I mean, it's showing... I'll tell you what, we'll assume icing conditions, I don't care. We'll just assume them. Technically speaking, I would be looking out of the window right now, and I would say, okay, it's dry, so we don't need to assume icing conditions, and that's it. But for the sake of the fun of the live stream, let's assume that we do have icing conditions. So when the engines are operated on the ground in icing conditions with a temperature of 3 degrees or below, check the logbook for any previous engine operation. So let's say we had 5 minutes taxi in time on the previous flight. That means in 25 minutes, or rather 25 minutes after engine start, we'll have to do an engine run-up. Luckily, that's not going to be much of a problem for us today. Apart from that, we've got the airframe de-icing and anti-icing procedure on the ground. The question is, since there is no precipitation, we could probably de-ice the airplane at the gate, because our holdover time would basically be infinite. I mean, we just have to remove any of the ice that has accumulated on the plane on the previous flight. We don't have to protect against the buildup of new icing. For this reason, if GSX offers me a de-icing at the gate, then we're probably going to do it. Alright, first things first though, let's say hello to our passengers, and then we are going to get ready for our flight. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon, well, a very good morning from the flight deck. This is your captain speaking. My name is Emmanuel. In the name of Finnair, welcome aboard our Airbus A321 on today's flight to Funchal. We do expect a flight time of approximately 5 hours and 35 minutes at an altitude of around 9,000 meters. Thank you very much for being our guests. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight with us. And if there is anything we can do for you to make it more enjoyable, please don't hesitate to ask any of our charming cabin crew. And Elton, runway is contaminated according to the snow tam. Okay, well, that makes it more interesting. Unfortunately, Phoenix doesn't offer us contaminated figures for the takeoff calculations, but, well, we can't protect against the contaminated runway, so we'll be keeping things the way they are right now. Alright, cool. So let's go ahead and remove the external power, if you please. Thank you. Then let's see if there is any ATC online at the moment. And there is, Helsinki Tower 118.6. Well then, let's go ahead and collect our IFR clearance. And we might as well quickly re-request the ATIS. So, ATIS, Echo Fox Hotel Kilo, departure, Watsim, send. Let's see what we are gonna get. So, ATIS, info Victor, runway 22 left right, runway condition 555, contaminated with 100% wet, okay, chemically treated, takeoff significant contaminant thin, reduced width 50 meters, snowbanks left, okay, that's all no problem, 150 at 7, 2 degrees, and 1008, which we've already got. Helsinki Tower, good evening. Finnair 36 Mike, information Victor, request IFR clearance to Funchal.
Finnair 36 Mike, Helsinki Tower, good evening. You are cleared to Lima Papa Mike Alpha, runway to right. Punto for November, departure road, climb 4,000 feet, QNH 1008, squawk 1364.
Finnair 36 Mike, cleared to Lima Papa Mike Alpha via the Nunta for November departure, runway 22 right, climb altitude 4000 on QNH 1008, squawk 1364.
Finnair 36 Mike, clearance correct.
Alright, 4000 feet, 22 right, Nunta for November is confirmed, QNH 1008 is also confirmed, squawk 1364.
Squawk 0505. And approach face northeast.
Okay, cool. So that's all done. Then let's see what GSX is offering us here, whether we can do de-icing at the stand or not. So clearance requested, looks like it's still in progress.
215 also requesting push and stop.
Right now, 2522.
Alright, cool. Then we just gotta wait for the GSX things to arrive. In the meantime, if only we knew whether we can do the de-icing here at the gate or not. Continue push. Yeah, do you request de-icing? Yes. Okay, perfect. Well then, let's go for the airframe de-icing anti-icing procedure. So, communication with ground crew, establish. De-icing anti-icing fluid type, check appropriate. Do not start the engines during fluid spraying, we won't do that. So, cabin pressurization mode selector, check auto. That's auto. Engine 1 bleed off. Air conditioning. Engine 1 bleed off. Engine 2 bleed off. Air conditioning. Engine 2 bleed off. APU bleed off. Aircon. APU bleed off. Ditching push button on. Now I need a free keyboard. Okay, ditching push button on. Okay, so note the vent avionics system fault alert may appear. If it appears, reset the circuit breaker at the end of the de-icing anti-icing procedure. For passenger comfort reason, it's not recommended to operate on the ground with both packs off for more than 20 minutes. Okay, starting the timer. So, thrust levers checker idle, and they're in idle, so with that we're basically ready and prepared for de-icing. So, do you want to request de-icing treatment? Yes. Then let the vehicles arrive. And as mentioned earlier on, Elton, I'm sorry, just saw it a little bit too late. Please do de-ice at remote stands. VATSIM has a very cool procedure for it. Yeah, I'm sorry. Just saw it too late. My apologies. And future 320 pilots. I'm usually doing my live streams on VATSIM. I do like to use Say Intentions AI when there is no ATC online, but when we do have ATC, then we might as well make use of them. Alright, so here it is. Fluid type 1 is sufficient for us, and you can do 50% as we are just anti-icing the aircraft. Well, as we are just de-icing the aircraft, aka we are just removing the fluid from the aircraft without protecting it against a new build-up. And Karate Wiesel, the new scenery is in Helsinki. That's the new Helsinki V2 from MK Studios that we are using. So you can see that it is fluid type 1 because of the greenish color that it has. And for the reason why we went with fluid type 1, that is basically because we only need to remove any contaminants that we may already have from the previous flight. But we do not need to protect against new contaminants building up, since there is currently no active precipitation or freezing fog or anything the likes. Alright, that gentleman is actually going for the remote de-icing. Lucas, the docking system is from GSX. You can find the profile in the Discord from MK Studios. Alright, perfect. So they are already finishing up. And let's go right back down into the operation here. So when de-icing is completed, first of all we are going to start the timer. Then ground equipment removed, de-icing anti-ice report received, and that report would look like this. So the type of fluid is Clarion Safewing MP2, ratio 50%. Time of holdover time begins at 1005. Always take the beginning of the procedure, and the post-application check is complete. Aircraft critical parts are clean. Alright, perfect. So then, we are going to wait with the actual pushback, and then let's go right up here. So ditching push button on, outflow valve check open, and it is opening, perfect. I like how quickly that goes on the 320. 330 takes incredibly long for that. So the outflow valve is open, then at least 1 minute after completion of spraying operations, and we got that 1 minute now. Engine 1 bleed on, aircon, engine 1 bleed on, engine 2 bleed on, aircon, engine 2 bleed on. So at least 5 minutes after completion of the spraying operation, APU bleed on, and then we can continue with the remainder of our procedures. So that's the airframe de-icing anti-icing procedure complete. Alright, perfect. So let's go ahead and call for a pushback clearance. Finnair 36 Mike, request pushback and startup.
Finnair 36 Mike, push and start approach, face southwest, QNH 1008.
Push and start approved, facing southwest, QNH 1008, Finnair 36 Mike.
And red nose 2522.
So before start checklists.
Red nose 2522, taxi straight ahead.
Park and brake.
Set.
Takeoff speeds and thrust. V1 138, VR 157, V2 158, flex 33. I am gonna go with the flex takeoff over here because we just can't see any of the contaminated runways here. Alright, windows closed, bacon, tasty, before start checklist complete. So ground from cockpit, push and start approved, and we are clear to face the southwest. We don't need to de-ice again. So facing southwest. Okay, release park and brake. Park and brake released, and you are clear to start the pushback. We're standing by for your signal to start the engines. Okay, we don't need to worry about that timer anymore. Reset and off, thank you.
Finnair 5 Delta Zulu, taxi stand 600, report park brake set.
So we do need another 2 minutes until we can turn on the APU bleed again, which is required for engine start, so things are going to take a little bit longer here today. But that's just how it is in winter ops. And AirDoc, are procedures like de-icing read and do? What do other procedures, or what other procedures are like that on Airbuses and Boeings? Yes, they are read and do procedures. Basically any of these supplemental procedures are read and do. So anything you find in the supplementary procedures chapter would be read and do. A lot of adverse weather is among that. Yeah, that type of stuff basically. Alright, we did start that timer quite a bit after the operation had completed, so let's say that we got the 5 minutes by now, because I don't want to hold up VATS traffic for too long. So APU bleed on, and then ground flight. We're ready for engine start. Sequence will be 1, then 2. And engine 1 start.
Lufthansa 851, where to go cross runway.
By the way, why are there 2 aircraft on top of one another? Is FS traffic injecting anything again? Yeah. So the 350 is real. Well, not sim real. I do like that.
Finnair 9er, stand by for signal start.
And Alton, yeah, you're right. One of the advantages of remote de-icing is most definitely that you wouldn't have to worry about the APU bleed. On the other hand side, one of the disadvantages is that if they do spray into the engines, you got a huge problem with the engines running. So, pushback completed, set park and brake. Park and brake set.
140 case 8, runway 15, cleared land. 723 runway 15, cleared land.
Okay, that's a good start in engine 1, starting engine 2. Clear 2. Engine 2 start. William, hello to Sweden. And Sonic's Toaster, ja moin.
Unreadable.
Okay, so number 2 is slowly coming up. There's a tuck, there's a tow bar. Important that you always check if the tow bar is included as well. There is skidding tires, by the way. Alright, and that looks like a good engine start to me. Okay, ground flight, we got 2 good starts. Please prepare the uplink for taxi. See you on the left with a pin and have a good day. Bye-bye. Well, and there she is already, with a pin. That was quick. Alright, engine is available. Then we are gonna start that timing again. And then we can do the after start procedures.
Takeoff 2522, line up runway 22 right.
Alright, trim
right, red nose 2522.
like that, and that equals how many percent? 25. Good. Okay, after start checklist. Anti-ice, engine anti-ice on. Ecam status, checked, pitch trim 25%, rudder trim, neutral. After start checklist complete. And Ian Khan, don't worry too much about the lower oil quantity right now. The oil quantity is simply a little bit lower because oil is sucked from the sump where it is collected into the engine when the engine is operating. That's why you see a little bit less on the indication right now. Finnair 36 Mike, request taxi.
Finnair 36 Mike, taxi on point Zulu Golf via Victor Golf.
Taxi holding point Zulu Golf via Victor Golf, Finnair 36 Mike.
Finnair 909, put and start approach, face northeast.
Okay, so Zulu Golf via Victor Golf. Victor Golf is here, Zulu Golf is here, so straight ahead, first right, hold short. Clear on the left side, clear on the right side.
Advisory 122 decimal 8 with 150
And parking brake released.
Good night.
60 right, clear for takeoff over, after departure, Airbus advisory.
So let's go.
In red nose 2522.
Brake check.
Yes, sir.
Brakes okay.
Lufthansa 851, starting de-icing, report de-icing complete. We'll go,
Okay, so to the right hand side, and then he didn't explicitly tell us to hold short of 22 left. I would kind of expect them to do in the real world, but in any case that is what we are going to do.
For November departure road, climb 4000 feet, Cock 4322.
And future 320 pilot, why is the pushback so far off the taxi line? I guess the GSX profile isn't completely optimized for the new scenery yet.
Delta departure, climb
And ACAS production. Have I ever heard a meow in real life? I've heard a meow, I've heard a woof, I heard ladies at work, the full thing.
For November departure road and climb 4000 feet. 4000 feet and several November.
Okay, so...
Now 537, clearance correct. Finnair 36 Mike, via Zulu Golf, cross runway 22 left, taxi holding point, Whiskey Golf.
At Zulu Golf, cross 22 left, taxi holding point, Whiskey Golf, Finnair 36 Mike. Alright, we are clear on the left, clear on the right, strobes on, clear to cross. And we're clear to Whiskey Golf, which is simply straight ahead. Okay. Interesting, it's barely accelerating here. I mean, we are going slightly uphill, you can see that outside.
Approaching 2.
Look at how much thrust we're using.
Information Victor.
Shouldn't need more than 40% here.
Finnair 4 November has double ahead of standby number 1.
So we are clear to cross.
Correct, Finnair 7 Delta Zulu. For what 2-step treatment for inks and stabilizers now completed, type 4 fluid mixture 50%. As final step, hold over time starting at 18.
Then Neon, we are using MK Studios as scenery.
Completed, personal equipment clear.
And Pavan, I don't think I've ever heard ATC telling someone that they've got a number, at least not seriously. I've heard it one time for fun.
Hello, you are clear to Rovaniemi, runway 22 right. Debris for November departure of climb 4000.
So the taxiway seems pretty clean over here, then we can also taxi at 30 knots. Obviously things would look quite a bit different if this had any contamination on it. So I have no changes to the takeoff briefing.
Finnair 722 taxi.
Finnair 723 taxi, actually Finnair 723 standby.
And taxi checklist. Flight controls. Actually, we still have to do them. Let's do them now.
Finnair 723, sorry about that. Taxi by
Pull up.
Yankee, Zulu, Victor Hotel.
Fall down.
Whiskey 36 Bravo.
Neutral. Full left.
Finnair 723 taxi Yankee.
All right.
Zulu,
Neutral, and we'll do the rudder as soon as we are past the turn.
Finnair 36 Mike, line up on wait runway 22 right.
Finnair 36 Mike, line up on wait runway 22 right. So, rudder.
Finnair 91 Yankee, information Victor.
Full left. Full right. And neutral.
91 Yankee Whiskey Tower, hello, you are...
Okay, taxi checklist. Flight controls checked. Flap setting, config 2, radar and PWS, on and auto, engine mode selector, norm, ecom memo, takeoff, no blue. Taxi checklist complete. So, line up 2 to right.
Approaching 2, 2, right.
91 Yankee, clearance correct.
Cabin crew, prepare for departure. Lineup checklist, takeoff runway, 2 to right, Whiskey Golf, TCAS, Tara, PAX 1 and 2, off, lineup checklist complete.
30%, hold over top starting at 18:54 local time, move that the and is completed. Person equipment clear, aircraft taxi on point, Whiskey Golf.
Copy, and taxi on point Whiskey Golf.
Dinner 36 Mike, when airborne, advise city 122 days. Light wind 150 is 900 from base, to
On
right, clear,
runway
takeoff,
2,
tonight.
2,
When Airborne 122 is Malay, 2 to right, clear for takeoff, Finnair 36, Mike.
Dinner Delta, behind departing aircraft, line up and base,
Takeoff.
to the right, behind.
Behind departing Airbus 321, I'm affirmative to right, and Finnair.
Manflex 33, SRS, runway, auto thrust blue. Thrust set.
Finnair 99 taxi, hold point, Zulu Golf, well, Victor Golf.
man.
100 knots, checked. V1. Rotate.
Finnair 537, request push inside.
Positive climb. Gear up.
Finnair 537, push inside.
Nav.
Face
Checked.
northwest.
Well, there was quite a bit of wind here.
Right.
Push and start through base north.
So when Airborne 22.8, that should be 1500 according to the chart. So basically now. Thrust climb, climb, auto thrust. Flaps 1. Speed check. Flaps 1. So this may look strange, but you can see flap auto retraction is already kicking in. Flaps are going up, and now we have enough space that we can actually accelerate properly. So flap 0, speed check, flaps 0. Nope, we're not supposed to be beeping. To go. So let's just set our higher flight level over here. Let's go to 100 at first. That's 10,000 blue. Okay, cool. So we made it out of Helsinki. And yeah, Ricardo, that absolutely was a very low flex temperature. I mean, we were at 90 tons takeoff weight. At that weight, we were very close to using full thrust. Unsurprisingly, to be honest. Alright, the plane can perfectly fly itself here. Autopilot 1, set standard. Standard cross check, passing flight level 5-7. Now, checked. Acceleration flow pattern, flaps up, spoilers retracted, gear up, and packs on. Right. Looks like we're clear of any possible icing for the next time. Engine anti-ice off. Gives us a little bit of extra power as well. Okay, beautiful. So we made it out of Helsinki. Let's just go ahead and continue that climb. Let's say to flight level 200 for now. That's flight level 200 blue. They always say don't look back, but The scenery just looks so nice here. You absolutely do have to look back. Elton, don't you need toga when the runway is contaminated? Yes and no. If the runway is really contaminated, yes you do. But in today's case, remember you can always just push the levers forward if you've calculated a flex takeoff. So flex is always designed in a way that your takeoff speeds account for full engine thrust as well. So my strategy here was to calculate the flex so that we have both options, and when we taxied out to the runway it was clearly not contaminated. So for that reason we could just go with the flex takeoff here. But you're right, when you look outside and you really see a contaminated runway, then toga is the better idea. Now, Hamburg Julian, is it normal that if you're flying from Madeira to Frankfurt in an A321 you go toga? But that depends. If there is possible wind shear conditions, absolutely. If the performance requires it as well, but I would not say that it is normal to use toga on any particular route just because of the route. Alright then, going through 10,000, lights off, and I would say this definitely looks pretty cleaner. Let's get the sunshades up here. So, seatbelts off. Then we can take airports, you can get a proper range on your nav display down there. And, well, clear and copy please. So let's see, cruising 320, optimum 320, maximum 337. Well, that looks easy, so level 320 it is. Cool, then let's go ahead and set that. Here we go, flight level 320 blue. I'm missing my alt cruise indication here that we've got on the wide body Airbuses. We no longer need that timer in the middle here. Here we go, thank you. Alright, cool. And with that we've made it out of the... out of anything stressful. So let's go ahead and put on a little bit of time acceleration so that we actually make it back to our... to Helsinki by the time that the event ends in 4 hours from now. Cool. So with that, we are nicely up and on the way. Let's climb up to cruise level, then we got a couple more procedures to run, but for the time being, I would say that was a very smooth departure. Believe me, if we had this type of weather in Germany, we would not have been out of there that smoothly. Okay, so Ricardo, you asked a little bit earlier, what could I do to be able to afford flight school at around 100,000 bucks? Well, I don't know your personal conditions, but maybe there is always the default chance of asking your parents for help with that, and they may have totally different options available than you. Then there are many airlines that actually offer flight training, and if you've got a contract with an airline that includes a position as a pilot once the training is completed, then you may be able to get a loan from a bank. Then there might be specialized banks near you. Or otherwise you can always go the slightly longer but much cheaper option of getting your private license in a club first and then getting your commercial license later. That takes a lot more time, but it can save, you know, like 30 or 40% of the money. And Avchik Zilas, hey, I thought you said once that for a delayed flight control track you have to be below 10 knots ground speed and no auto brakes selected. That is true. Now, for the ground speed, that's a figure from the manual. I can tell you just by going to an airport and looking at other airlines that many are not following it. But with the auto brake, you're absolutely right, and if I had selected the auto brake before the check, today, then that was a mistake, and the first officer should have picked up on that. But you're absolutely right, you are not supposed to be using, or to have the auto brake enabled when you conduct the flight control check. The reason for that is that when the flight control check is done, your spoilers are going to extend together with the ailerons, and the extension and retraction of the spoilers has the ability to cause the auto brake to trigger. And imagine that auto brake is super strong. Imagine a cabin crew member still standing in the cabin when the auto brake triggers. There's been one case in Germany where that actually broke the neck of a flight attendant, with consequences that you can think of. So that's the reason why you shouldn't have the auto brake on during the flight control check. So, Mach Alt Star, 19 minutes, Alt Cruise. Then let's quickly do a fuel check. So, we've got Recto. Here it is, 22 minutes, and that is, well, a minute early actually, that's quite good. And then we should have 16.7, we do have 17.9. The Phoenix is going up and down. Well, vertical speed 0. Yeah, guys, the Phoenix is not able to actually maintain the flight level very well with time acceleration. It used to be able to do that, but they broke it with one of the recent updates. So we will be using vertical speed 0 to maintain our altitude, because as you can see, that works perfectly. Okay, then going by the order in which the questions came in there. Ian Khan, reason for the large difference between V1 and VR? Well, that was because of the wet runway and the very high takeoff weight. As you can imagine, at a takeoff weight like we've had it today, stopping the airplane takes a very, very great amount of energy, and since the friction on a wet runway isn't as high as it is on a dry runway, well, there's the reason why we needed to, or why we had the great split between V1 and VR. There would just not have been enough runway left by the moment, or by the time that we reached V1 to stop the aircraft due to the wet runway. Okay, so future A320 pilot, do you have any advice to becoming a pilot? Well, depends on where you are in your life. If you're still visiting school, then I would recommend you to try and engage as much as possible, especially in topics like English, and try to build up a general understanding of mathematics and of physics. I'm saying general understanding over here because obviously the exact topics that you learn in school will not necessarily be required for your aviation career, but you will need that general understanding of the topics so that you can prove to your possible future employer that you will be able to understand all the things that are really going to matter in aviation. And English is just a topic that you gotta learn hands-on, so you just have to speak the language. And the more you practice, the more you do that, the easier it is going to become when you become a pilot later on. Runway heading says maybe I'll have to skip the 330 and go straight for the Unibuild's 350. Well, the good thing about the 330 is that it comes by default with Flight Sim 2024. So if you got that sim, then you simply have the A330 already. It's included in the, I don't want to say like lowest version of the sim, but it is included in the cheapest version of the sim. So Takeoff below, because we don't care what's 5,000 feet above us, but we very well care what's 5,000 feet below us. Imagine getting a decompression now. So, Murray has asked, hi Manuel, can you explain if there's an actual difference when following the flight directors between an ILS approach versus an RNAV approach, or will the RNAV, like the ILS, take you right down? Well, that depends on the RNAV procedure in question. Many of them take you right down to the runway just like the ILS would, but look at the one that we are going to fly today, for example. If we look into the RNAV Alpha into Madeira over here, that one takes you anywhere but not to the runway. Come on, load the chart, please. Here we go, so that one takes you just into the downwind. Now, if your question is meant in a way that is there a difference when you are just using the flight directors, then no. Following the flight director always works the same regardless of whether you are flying an ILS or whether you're flying an RNAV approach. But of course, the RNAV approach itself may not necessarily lead you to the runway. Now, that is not to say that every ILS will lead you to the runway. Let me show you something that's fairly interesting. GSX window blocking click spots. Here we go. Let me show you an ILS that will lead you straight into the ocean. So, ILS Zulu 31, we're in the Seychelles right now. And let's see if we can see that properly on the chart over here. It doesn't really show us that properly, but take that little warning over here. If visual at the missed approach point, intercept Papi glide slope and continue to land. That's because the glide slope of the ILS of that particular approach in the Seychelles over here, that's going to lead you right into the water. So if you find any superhero who thinks he can continue visually below the minimum, by the way, that is also the reason why the minimum is at 630 feet above the field here. If you find any superhero who doesn't see anything at the minimum and just continues, he's gonna end up going for a swim quite a bit sooner than he probably wants to. I mean, swimming in the Seychelles is lovely during your layover, but for God's sake, don't do it with the entire airplane. So that's quite the interesting one. Alright, we're crossing Armot. Let's see if we can just chime in another fuel check here. 48 minutes, 15.3. And we got 47 minutes, 16.8. So we are 1.2 tons ahead on the fuel. Looks good. Plenty of airports here, so just in case you're wondering why I'm not constantly checking for weather and stuff like that. We're in Europe. There are so many airports around. We don't really have to worry too much about this kind of stuff, do we? Alrighty. So where is that sun right now? Well, let me show you something. Move to the right hand side. Okay, the sun is shielded by the panel. Because what happens often is that the sun is right in your colleague's face, and then you have to take the sun shield down, even if you don't have the sun in your own face here. Alright, so, going down into the chat from Daniel. Hey Amy, do you know if Anybuilds is going to do a sale on the A350 or 350 deliveries on Marketplace? I'm afraid I really don't know, but I would honestly expect them to do that at some point. However, when? Very hard to say. So, just going through the chat here. Julian, in the simulator I've landed in Corfu and the RNAV was really offset. Is that normal? It is absolutely normal in Corfu, because we can have a quick look at that just to show you. Can we change the alternate somehow? Or are we really limited to one alternate? That would suck. Can we really not change the alternator here? Okay. What if I hit reset? Okay. Now import sim brief. Now it's probably deleted all the charts I've previously saved, but let's just open this one. So LGKR, Corfu. Instrument approaches RMP 3.4, that's the interesting one. So the reason why this approach is offset is this lovely Cumulus granitus over here, aka the mountain on the island. There is a minimum distance to the mountain that you are legally required to have on an approach if you do not want the approach to become an RMP AR. And even for AR approaches, there is still minimum distances, even though they are less than they are for normal RMP approaches. But there is a minimum terrain clearance requirement by law for procedure design, and that is the reason why the approach is offset. Even though it's just a couple degrees, but otherwise you would simply be getting too close to the mountains. What we do in practical terms when we're on this approach is basically, once you are past Kilo Romeo 600 and you got the runway inside, then you would disconnect the autopilot, recycle the flight directors respectively, turn them off if you're flying an Airbus, and then just go visual to the left and align yourself with the runway. Now, I do happen to know a couple of guys who find it funny to do the visual part when they're like 1 mile out. I can tell you it is challenging, but funny is definitely not the right word for maneuvering that low. Wow, the weather is starting to look better. Cloud ceiling is dropping. I like that. And Corey, good morning from New Zealand again, Emmanuel. Great to see some de-icing procedures explained. I love making my sim flight as realistic as possible. You're welcome, Corey, and do check out my video on winter operations as well. I do explain quite a lot of stuff in that one as well. Now, do you use sunscreen as a pilot? How important is it? Well, not when I'm sitting in the airplane. In the layover, it's a different thing at the beach, but when sitting in the airplane, the windows are built so that any of the rays that could potentially cause sunburn are actually absorbed by the airplane windows, so you don't have to worry about getting a burn in the cockpit. However, I can tell you, when the sun is shining like it is right now from right here, and you put your hand on that glass shield for a little while, it will first of all become really, really hot, and with that I mean the moment you touch the glass shield it may already start hurting, or burning, for that matter. And I can tell you that if you put your hand up here for like half an hour, your hand is going to look funny. So I'm not using sunscreen, but I do usually bring some, what's the English word for that? Normal, skin care cream, however you call that in English. Just because, especially on long hauls, we're sitting there with a humidity between 5 and 15%. That's a lower humidity than you have in the Sahara Desert. And obviously, your skin does become very dry on that, so I would recommend everyone to use a little bit of normal skincare cream, however that's called in English, during your normal long-haul flight. As a passenger, but most importantly as a crew member, because you're just sitting in these weather conditions so much. Right, it is getting rather turbulent here. Let's turn the fasten seatbelt sign on. And Frankfurt traffics, is it worth paying the 40 euros more for the Phoenix 319 and 321? Well, ask yourself that question. When you fly the A320, does it feel like you already know the entire airplane, or does it feel like you might, or does it feel like you're still constantly learning new stuff? When you're constantly learning new stuff and don't care too much about the fact that the 319 and the 21s are, well, just those, then I would absolutely recommend you to consider mastering the one airplane first. But if you feel already well comfortable on the 320, then I would say the 19 and 21 are definitely some very nice variations to those aircraft. And absolutely, yeah, why not give them a try?
Giving a traffic stage runner.
I definitely do think it's worth it.
12.5 miles from runway for left, ILS approach.
So, pretty turbulent right now. Good thing we got the passengers seated already. Just look at the altitude going up and down all the time. That's quite a bit of turbulence here. And Ion, yes, we are absolutely allowed to use time acceleration on that sim. Basically, we are not allowed to leave the computer while we're doing it. So we have to be here all the time. Then we gotta make sure that we don't impede the experience of others, which in other words simply means that we are not allowed to fly into anyone else, even though we might have the right of way. So we always have to deviate around other traffic when we are using time acceleration. And of course, when we enter controlled airspace, we have to go back to normal sim rate and ask for permission by the controller if we can continue using time acceleration. But yeah, that's about all there is about this. So, traffic 2000 above, that's what I just talked about. We do not get anywhere within 1,000 feet from him, therefore we can continue with time acceleration. But if this gentleman would, for example, be descending right now, then we would actually have to fly around him. So, company message. Let's just quickly have a look. There he is. Hello there. Oh man, going through a turn in turbulence. Okay. That guy, you do have an option to control the time acceleration down in the FMC. So you go to MCU menu, maintenance, and then up here you have the controller for the sim rate. So let's quickly answer that company message here. ATSU, AOC menu, and received messages. Finnair operations, send delay for 14 minutes. Okay, we'll put that all down to the de-icing. So let's see, delay allocation card. Can you guys see de-icing anywhere here? Because I actually cannot. Well, in that case we'll enter other, and we are going to write it in free text. So ADC delay, OTH, and that's gonna be all 14 minutes, and we'll write that down to de-icing. Alright, and send. So it looks like it's smoothing out a bit. Alright, definitely smooth again, so passengers are released. Now, Maastricht is coming up in 200 miles, and as we do remember, Oh, delay received, thank you. So as we do remember, optimum 330. We could climb up to flight level 340 right now, but probably not worth it now for 200 miles, so I'm just gonna go up to level 330 as soon as we are crossing the border into Belgium, and that's going to be it for our step climb. Alright, cool. Alright, so lots of comments that came in the meantime here. Joran van der Werf, do I know if the A330 will get an update? I do not know. I hope it. And I mean, it would make economical sense, right? When they develop all that software for the A340. Oh, god damn it. Look at that, the sun is exactly between where the sunshade reaches and the airplane. That always happens. Always does. Alright, then we might as well just put that thing back again. So, Leo, have I flown into Madeira in the real world? Unfortunately not. Crops... how do you pronounce that username? Cropstakes? I guess. Is it normal for your radar to show a clear ring around the airplane? Well, for that you gotta understand how the weather radar works. So the way that weather radar works, you've got the antenna that's built into the nose of your aircraft, and that one is tilting down at a certain angle, in cruise usually 1 or 2 degrees. And you have to visualize how the beam of the antenna is transmitting. It's basically a rectangular triangle. So obviously, since you are not right within the weather but above the weather, you will see a little bit of clear area until the beam of the antenna eventually hits the weather, and that way you are going to get the returns. In the real world you can do a lot of fancy things with that, by the way, because when you know the angle of your antenna, then you also can calculate the altitude of the weather. So an easy formula, that's real world stuff. Unfortunately, our sober weather radar, which sucks, does not make any of that possible. But in the real world, the way this would work is that you would... Interesting, is my... Oh, now it's responding. Okay, in the real world, the way this works is that with an angle of -1 degree on the weather radar, you can say that your distance is the altitude difference to the weather. So for example, if we had a weather that was... there's that guy climbing slowly. I think we should be well past him by the time he reaches any altitude that might be problematic. So, let's say that we got the weather radar set to -1 degree, and weather is located or is shown 40 miles away from us. Then we know that that weather is 4,000 feet below us. That is how you could do this mathematics, and that is how we determine the altitudes of weather in the real world. Unfortunately, all of that is completely impossible in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Alright, so the gentleman is behind us now and just about reaching 1,000 feet difference, so that was well separated. If he would have been any closer, we might have, we would probably have had to fly turn, but that way, no problem. Now, so many more comments over there. Anonymous A321, what null zone settings do you use on the side stick? Close to 0. The real one doesn't have a null zone at all. In the real one, you move the stick, the airplane responds straight away. Now, Captain Lukeborn, what are my thoughts on the synaptic Airbus A320? Well, looking at the screenshots, it's visually very promising. I mean, the model is done by Indie Builds, so of course it would be looking good. System-wise, I think it's very hard to actually comment on it yet, because we haven't really seen it in action yet, so very hard to actually comment on how good it is going to be. It is their first project, so obviously we don't have any references for how good they really are and how good it's going to get. So I'm really looking forward to it, because I do believe that we do absolutely need a good A220 in the sim. I'm hoping that it's going to be good, but for the time being we haven't seen any evidence on how good it is actually going to be, except for that it is absolutely looking fantastic. So those are my thoughts on the Synaptic 220 at the moment. Once it releases, you can be 100% sure that you will get a full-scale review and probably also tutorial from me. Alright, so, Sam, hi Emmy. I lost the question. Why do you put, for example, 6,001 feet on the transition altitude in the 737? That's an excellent question, and that's an easy one to answer as well. So, Boeing 737 logic here for a second. If the legs page shows you something as a flight level, then VNAV is always going to treat it as a flight level, independent of what your altimeter is set to. So let's take an easy example. The initial climb out of Düsseldorf is 5,000 feet. The transition altitude is also 5,000 feet, and as a result, the FMS is going to show you flight level 50 as a constraint rather than altitude 5,000. Because of this, the airplane would always level off in flight level 50, regardless of what your altimeter is set to. And that is technically speaking incorrect. That would be an altitude violation. For this reason, by changing the transition altitude to 6001 rather than 6000, the airplane is still going to treat 6000 as an altitude and level off at that particular altitude. Hope that makes sense. It's actually very easy when you see it happen on the actual plane. And I do hope that I can finally convince PMDG to implement this with the upcoming FS 2024 version. I've been pushing them for a while on that feature. But understandably, I get a lot of responses saying that, well, if you do that, simmers are going to be confused. So, under discussion, under review, but certainly something that I hope is going to come. Now, Frankfurt Traffics, is RMP and RNAV the same? Now, you will get a lot of discussion when you ask that question. The best, or not the best, but I think the most appropriate answer that I can give on that topic is, for practical flying purposes, it is the same. But there will surely be some lawmaker who is gonna say, does that guy even know what he's talking about now? Man, shit, I'm taking so much time to answering questions that I am actually really getting behind here. So, just seeing if I've missed any. ST Faustine, hi, is your girlfriend not complaining that you're always on Microsoft Flight Sim? Well, the key point is to be not on the Flight Sim when the girlfriend is around. Alright, and we're entering Belgium, so let's climb to flight level 330. Why is that going to alt cruise? Vertical speed, alt, flight level 330 blue. There was no reason for it to enter alt cruise here. So, going into France, flying southbound, means we need not flight level here. And of course it's going up and down again, so let's go back to vertical speed 0. Like that. Come on, minus 100, bring me back to flight level 330 exactly, please. In the meantime, we're in France, so let's proceed direct to Resmi. That's pretty much what you always get by them. So, Resmi, direct insert, and when reaching Resmi we can definitely do another fuel check here. Now what we could consider, optimum is 340. Why did the cruise level not change to 330 when we climbed? Interesting. So we could consider climbing to level 350 straight away already, but... Hey, where's my step climb? Here it is. 390 miles. It should also show on the performance page though. We should not see the distance to the top of descent here, we should see the distance to the next step climb. Oopsie, descended a bit too low. Let's go vertical speed plus 100, and most important, let's silence that alarm. You can do that on the master warning button up here. But good thing that we have the alarm. You can absolutely see why, huh? Alt star, and back to VS0. It's really too bad that the Phoenix is currently not able to maintain altitude properly under time acceleration, because it used to be able to do that perfectly. So I really hope they are going to update it so that it can do that again. And Pavan, have I seen Aurora Borealis while flying? If so, how was it? I've seen it 100 times. The last one was just a couple days ago when I came back from Canada. And the last one was actually really impressive. But most of the time when you see Aurora Borealis from the airplane, it's actually just a white shimmer on the horizon to the human eye. Now when you take a camera and take a photo of that white shimmer, then it becomes lovely colors. But the human eye is not able to see that unless the aurora is like really, really strong. I do believe the reason for it is that when you're down on the ground, then the light breaks within the Earth's atmosphere. And just to give you an idea, when you're flying up at cruise levels, there is only about 20% of atmosphere above you, while on the ground it's obviously 100%. So when the light, or when the auroras are crossing that atmosphere, that really makes a difference. That really, really makes a difference. Now let's go direct to Arkip. We'll take the beam points for that one, so that we can do the fuel check at Resmi. And this is, by the way, pretty much the real-world routing that we would get here as well. So those shortcuts are almost always granted. Well, not just granted, but actually given by ATC all the time. Now, Zhao Zhou, have you ever seen an unidentifiable object in the sky? Yes. But the fact that it was unidentifiable to us does not mean that it was unidentifiable to everyone. I'm sure that air defense knew what those objects were at any time. But yeah, you absolutely sometimes see some black things flying around, which are not showing up on your transponders, respectively on your TCAS. So almost always those will be military aircraft. Well, not almost always, but always. I don't think that any, like, real extraterrestrial object would be able to enter Earth's atmosphere and not end up in media coverage. There would most definitely be someone in the military who would go to the newspapers and tell them, hey, we found a UFO. And Sharjo, seems like summer ops was just yesterday. Yeah, I agree. Future A320 pilot, what's the estimated time of arrival? The FMS tells me 1550, so that's in 2 hours 50, divided by 4, plus that we're probably going to do a good chunk of the descent in real time. So I would say in about 50 minutes, roundabout, 45, 50 minutes-ish, perhaps a little bit less. That would just be my take here. But look at this, we're already reaching the half point. The equal time point currently is drawn between Helsinki and Madeira, so already halfway. Is going quick, isn't it? Absolutely looking forward to that approach. Oh, come on, aircraft, stop going up and down. Just go to VS, just maintain your altitude, please. No! What are you doing? Stop going up and down. Come on, give me 100 plus, please. Yeah, that's looking okay then. So we're approaching one of my favorite French aircraft, Arnav. Always so funny when I ask you, are you able Arnav? And people respond by, yeah, flying direct Arnav. Nope, that's not what they meant. So 2 hours 42 and 11.6 overhead Arnav. Versus 245, 9.6, so we are 2,000 kilos ahead on our fuel. I wonder how we saved that. Probably a bit of it by not doing the step climb, but you get the idea. So, where are we leaving France? Osmop. Is it Osmop? No, it's not. It's gonna be that one here, Runa. Or Bravo Tango Zulu, most likely. So let's proceed direct to Biarritz. With the beams, insert. Again, real world flying. The French are very good at giving directs. So 300 mile direct, no problem at all. You're absolutely going to see that in France. Now here's a question that I'm really asking myself. Are Finnair pilots going to get a layover in Madeira? Because I do not think that the duty time limit would be long enough that you could actually fly back. It's pretty much 6 hours block time to get there, 6 hours to get back. You've got 13 hours with a flight duty period extension 14, but you also have to take like an hour to an hour and a half of pre-flight duty into consideration. That would leave you with 30 minutes of duty time to spare. So I guess it would be possible to actually fly this over and back with the same crew. But man, that would not be humanely possible. So if any of you knows if the Finnair crews are actually doing layovers over there, then do let me know in the comments. That'd definitely be interesting. Burak, hi, I'm doing very good. I'll be starting the type rating in December after flight school. Is there any recommendations that I can get from you? Yeah, absolutely. First of all, since you are coming to a flight simulator channel, I do assume that you have a flight simulator. So absolutely get yourself an add-on copy of the airplane type in question, and do check out if you can maybe find an AFCOM, or if you can, you know, just find something to do a little bit of self-study before you start with the actual type rating. Because it really helps so much if you've already got a basic idea of how the avionics of those aircraft work. So that, and you can do a little bit of SOPs and procedural training there as well. So that is really, really stuff that I can recommend you to do. And Nirthak, should I pursue a long-haul career North Atlantic or short-haul at Norwegian? Honestly, that absolutely relies on your personal preferences. If you think that long-haul might be interesting to you, then go for it. But be aware that long-haul is not just about the flight attendants and lying at the beaches. I should have said on the beaches. That okay, I ruined the pun, that's fine. So be aware that long-haul is not just about flight attendants and layovers, but you also have to work at very different times of the day. You will do lots and lots of flying at night, which is something that you should have in mind when deciding to go long-haul. It is harder on your body than flying short-haul. So that is absolutely something to have in mind when you decide for a long-haul career. Then again, that is not to say that short-haul is easy, because when you are doing like 4 flights every day, working 12 hours every day, that's not exactly easy on your body either. But at least with most airlines, when you are flying short-haul, you will not be working like in the window of cardian low, which basically is between 2 AM through 5 AM local time that your body is accustomed to. So that is a huge advantage of flying short haul. You will not have to stay up all night. But then again, you are doing more flights, which is harder on the body than just doing one long flight. Well, unless we take radiation into account, then long haul is something completely different. So yeah, it really comes down to what you favor personally. And Burak, thank you very much. I really love to hear that. Really love to hear it. And Frankfurt Traffics, what do I think about using Flight Simulator 24 with freeware only? Well, I think that's absolutely a good thing to do. The default aircraft really aren't bad at all. Quite the opposite, the Edibuild Airbuses are pretty good. And there is a lot of excellent freeware available for the sim as well. So why not? You don't always have to get the latest and greatest payware, you know? I tend to say that the majority of flight simmers can learn a lot even with, you know, just default aircraft. Of course it might not have all the fancy FMS features, but does it need to have them all? Not necessarily. And Sinedine Rabiai, when Finnair pilots are flying to Madeira, they also fly the turnaround, so it's about a 14-hour duty time. Oh god. See, that's what I talked about with working long hours in short haul. And Adrian, yes, you are right. The circadian clock is a contributing factor on a lot of, really on a lot of aviation accidents. Now, the reason why, I think everybody who at some point got up at night will know the reason why it is. You know, if you have to get up at 3 AM, you're just not gonna be as, let's say, fresh and as relaxed than you would be if you get up at a normal time like 7 AM or 6 AM. And it doesn't really matter how much you go to sleep beforehand. Like, I always sleep like 3 hours before getting up for the night flight or the night sector of a long haul flight. So I do get some sleep, but let's say if you go to bed at 2 AM and you can sleep until 5 AM, then chances are you may be a bit tired on the following day, but you will be able to do like 15-16 hours before you absolutely fall asleep. If you, on the other hand side, sleep from, let's say, 8 p.m. until 11 p.m. and then get up to work, it's a completely different story. So the time of the day, especially when within the window of cardium low, absolutely has an impact on your body. There is no question about that. Now, let's just quickly go out of time acceleration here, because there is a Madrid control online, and I just quickly have to check whether we are flying through his airspace or whether we are flying around his airspace. That's by for the win. Let's give that a second, and we are flying through his airspace. Alright, so Madrid 13298. And then let's make sure that we're actually in level 330 by the time we call in.
28134 Madrid, buenas tardes, good evening, identified, continue climbing flight level 350.
Continue climbing flight level 350, Kuwait 1.
Madrid, buenas tardes, Finnair 36 Mike, level 330.
Finnair 36 Mike, buenas tardes, identified, fly direct Adino.
Direct Adino, Finnair 36 Mike. So, direct to Adino with the beams insert.
Good evening, identified, descent, fly level 350, direct Adino.
Wow, Pandy, thank you so much for the £20 donation. Thank you for your TVM 850 videos. Watching Steve 1 Kinebo while flying November 851 Tango Bravo around the US was how I got interested in aviation years ago, and finding the Black Square one recently, paired with your in-depth videos, have been perfect. Thank you so much. That's really, really appreciated, my friends.
Continue direct mulling.
Alrighty, so let's do a very quick ecam check down here. Just going over everything, seeing if there is anything out of the ordinary.
Good evening, it's squawk 4402.
Well, here is something. The hydraulic fluid on the green system is rather low. Now, I know that on the 320 the box doesn't move. On the wide body Abasos the box moves around, so the box would be lower. But if I saw this on an A320 on an A330, then I would absolutely be becoming nervous.
Ryanair 978 Uniform identified.
Alright. So, let's just get permission to use time acceleration from the controller.
Madrid control is 8898, flight level 400, inbound, Zulu Mike Romeo. I think we're in your tank.
8898 Heavy Madrid, good evening, radar identified, flight direct Della.
Martin, I'm absolutely looking forward to the new PMDG 737. It's really time that we can use a 737 again on the channel, like a proper one, where you can actually do all the tricks that we used to do on the real airplane. But I'm not allowed to share any news that I may have.
Walker 2380, Madrid, good evening, identified, continue direct Poland, flight level 340.
Direct Poland, flight level 340, Walker 2380.
And the controller tells me he does not approve time acceleration, which would be annoying. I don't want to be flying in real time for 45 minutes now. Well, 35 minutes.
Continue Bannett 4 Delta.
Let's see, ask him if we can get it at a different flight level maybe. Kind of what I'm expecting the controller to do when answering the question whether we can use time acceleration is to check if there is any conflicting traffic at my flight levels in his FIR, and if there is, then of course he cannot permit it. If there is not, I'm kind of expecting that he does. Because that's after all what the code of conduct says.
Success 36 kilo, Madeira radar identified.
So let's see if we can get an answer from him there. And then we'll decide on our next course of action if we might have to disconnect from VATSIM. Even though I really don't see a reason why. Even though, Martin, you say that there is a Ryanair in front. Okay. Well, that may of course be a reason.
Please control low to the 14.
Well, the Ryanair seems to be in 35,000, so if we remain in 33, we should be able to pass underneath him without any problems. There is a Swiss ahead of us as well, but he's in 35 as well. Nope, there shouldn't be any aircraft that we should be interfering with. The controller says it's because of his philosophy. He does not support time acceleration in general. Well, I do not agree with that. So let's ask him.
Airport 1693, Madeira, good evening, radar identified, that's fine.
Message control, Allah entering 07 Mike, flight level 2.
Last time you say again, call sign, only call sign.
Interwing 07 Mike.
Interwing 07 Mike, Madeira, good evening, squawk 4401.
Squawk 4401, entering 07 Mike.
Okay, he says that he feels like he cannot control my flight if I'm flying faster than normal. So we'll have to disconnect. So yeah, disconnected from VATSIM, I'll just be logging on as observer again, so if you still hear him talking, we are not actively online on the network now, but we are just connected as an observer. So let's go back to time acceleration here. 4x is on. So yeah, there is no way for me to enforce the controller to approve time acceleration. The code of conduct, while it says that time acceleration is allowed, does not specifically say that I can force the controller to approve it. So for that case, not much we can do here, therefore I am disconnecting from the network and just logging back on as observer, so that the controller does not actually see me on his screen, but I still see any aircraft around me, which is going to be important when we log back on. I did ask him where we are leaving his airspace, and it's at Adino. So once we are past Adino, we can then connect as normal traffic again. So yeah, that's the VATSIM rules. Have to play by them.
Control, hello, fraction.
And future 320 pilot, I don't know when the next live stream is going to be. And Diogo, love VATSIM as a concept, but this is why I can't be bothered. Yeah, I do absolutely understand that. Sometimes people have opinions and enforce them on others, and that is one of the points that I dislike about the network as well. I mean, I totally get that it would be very difficult to actually create like a larger rule set there, and it would not necessarily be leading anywhere, but yeah, it is definitely something that I would like to see some improvement on, or at least let's not say some improvement, but some more, how do you call it best? I would say some more acceptance from the self-declared hardcore flight simmers, who are always like, no, time acceleration is not realistic, can't do it. You know, if we take this controller's argument that he said that he feels like he cannot control my flight properly when I'm using time acceleration, then I would say, okay, I can understand that to a certain extent, but then what you should do is just do what I did earlier. Look at the airspace and the route that the guy wants to fly, and check if there is anybody within or around that flight level that this guy wants to fly, and if the answer is no, it's just a faster aircraft. I mean, military aircraft are flying as fast as we do right now. We are doing 460 knots ground speed times 4, so basically like 2000 knots. Well, military fast jet aircraft can fly 2000 knots, so...
Channel 5 Kilo Echo, read back correct. Confirm we're ready for taxi.
Negative, we're not ready yet. I'll let you know when we're ready.
Copy. Break. 36 Kilo, nothing for the monitor.
Martin, excellent question. I have a question, being an industrial engineer, and I'm currently doing the ATPL. Do you know if in the selection process for some airlines this might count as a bonus to be an engineer as well? Oh, absolutely. Now I can't tell you for any particular airline, but I can tell you that, for example, Lufthansa very much prefers their pilots to have a degree as well. Not required, but it's preferred. Oh, come on, airplane. Maintain your altitude properly, please. And Thomas, in regards to time acceleration, you are right. Clear rules would help rather than recommendations. On the other hand side, though, I can understand that VATSIM at the end of the day is still a hobby, and if you regulate everything down to the very last... you know, if you regulate everything down to the very last detail, it might just turn people off from using VATSIM. So I can kind of understand where the problem is there, and even though the current regulations are not always fortunate, I think it would be very hard to find a definitive answer there.
Channel 5 Kilo Echo, ready to taxi.
Channel 5 Kilo Echo, taxi holding.
Hey Charlie, nice to see you this evening. The destination alternate actually is Porto Santo today, because the weather over there is good enough, and taking Faro would have brought us right to the absolute maximum fuel. Now, we could do that, but is it recommendable to do on a flight like this? Not if the weather is good. If there is a reason, like if the weather at Porto Santo would include thunderstorms and stuff like that, then I would absolutely say, yeah, Faro would be an appropriate alternate, but right now the weather is good enough that we do not necessarily have to do that.
Lufthansa 43 uniform confirming, are you flying direct top 2?
And Diogo, yeah, I do agree. It seems to vary a bit depending on where you fly and VATSIM. I just love the immersion aspect, and controlling at the end of the day, it's a sim, don't want to treat it like a job. Yeah, you're absolutely right on that.
Transavia for Tango, radar identified, continue flight.
Continue south for Tango.
And Adrian, do I know whether PMDG will do that massive 737 overhaul on FS 2020 as well, aside from 2024? I know that they recently made a forum post where they said that at the moment there is no active development on FS 2020. Does that mean that it's not going to come in the future? We don't know. And Elton, any updated ETA back to Helsinki? Well, we gotta get down to Madeira, then we need to do the turnaround, so let me see, we need about 30 minutes, perhaps a little bit more to land in Madeira. Then we do the turnaround, which takes another 30, takeoff plus flying to like level 100, another 10. So we're talking an hour and 10 until we're airborne again, that's 20, well 1920 UTC. Then we are once again en route for about an hour and a half. No, I tend to say it's more like going to be 2045 to 2050 UTC. I think that's more realistic to expect, that we're landing right at the end of the event in Helsinki. Alright, we're passing Ardino, that means we can log back in again as normal traffic and no longer as observer. And might as well quickly chime in a fuel check then. So Ardino 8.4 and 3 hours 56. And down here we got Ardino 358, 6.1. Man, we saved a lot of fuel, 2.1 already. Interesting. I'll cruise. And tell you what, we can just climb to level 350 anyway now. First time climb, alt, flat level 350 blue. 3.5 happens to be the optimum as well now. 500 miles to run, so about an hour at the new cruising level. Sounds just about fine. So the Portuguese are very, very good with directs. For this reason, direct to Raccoon. We're taking the beam points here so that we got some... something for a fuel check. We will be doing one more at Narcos before we're heading out to the Atlantic. So, 4 hours in the air. And I gotta say, the weather down here is quite a bit better than the weather in Helsinki. Quite a bit better, actually. Alright, I don't think we need this anymore, or this. Just enjoy lovely southern Europe. At the end of a summer, you can see how it's still a little bit brown down here. But that's going to change back to green pretty quickly within a month or so. And Charlie, at the moment there's no snow in hell, but doesn't mean that that's gonna come back. And Loax cold, yes, we will be doing the flight back as well. And Robert, yes, we are flying on Vatzim as well over here. Charlie, yeah, Faro is a lovely airport. I've flown there a couple times in the real world. Usually it's always straight in, because, well, they're just, you know, there's just nothing flying down there. So you can just easily go straight in and usually do that. Usually you even get a descent clearance from cruise level down to 4,000 feet straight away when you're going down there. It's an interesting place to fly. And yeah, that haze on final is happening quite a bit down there. because you are so close to Africa that whenever you've got winds from the south, a lot of dust from Africa is actually carried to the southern tip of Spain and Portugal. So that's actually pretty normal to see there. So, Nirtak, which side stick do I use and why? So, at the moment, I'm fortunate enough that the friend of mine who lent me his Moza stick has extended that a little bit, but that's just a stick that I borrowed, and it's really nice, the Moza force feedback stick, but I'll eventually have to return it. My standard flight simulator stick at the moment is kind of for the left hand side the Thrustmaster Airbus stick, and for the right hand side the Wing Airbus stick. Doesn't make too much of a difference. The Wing feels a little bit more realistic because the shape is just better, but apart from that it's quite similar to one another. So if you really want to invest money into the most realistic feeling of an Airbus stick, then go get the Moza, but that thing is bloodily expensive, so I would probably know better ways to spend that money. And I'm not talking about a Pornhub premium subscription here. And Robert, can I recommend the Wing stick? Yeah, absolutely. I would absolutely not fly Airbus with a yoke. That just feels completely wrong. So we're going past Narcos, 4 hours and 18 versus 4 hours and 21. Fuel should be 5.1. We got 7.3. So yeah, I'm not sure where those 2,000 extra kilos came from. I mean, we loaded like 600 or 700, but that means we saved 1.5 tons of fuel. And there is just someone ringing the doorbell. Guys, I'll be straight back. Give me a second here. And sim rate reset. I'll be straight back. Just some Amazon packages. Alright, I suppose we're right back then, and that means we can go back into time acceleration as well. See, that's how the how the VATSIM rules are working. Man, those are some pretty awesome scratches on the windshield. But yeah, that is how it looks sometimes. I mean, this is a pretty badly scratched windshield. I gotta say that. Even when the sun is shining right on it, it normally doesn't look that scratched. Talbot Griese, what is your area code? You mean the zip code? I'm not gonna share that, sorry. And Synodine, top of descent is in. Well, that's 320 miles divided by 4 is roughly 80 miles. So in about 10 minutes. And Julian, would I fly Boeing with a stick? I would rather fly Boeing with a stick than Airbus with a yoke. Except for the A300 and A310. And ACAS production, yes, I am allowed to say that on YouTube. Not too much, and not within the first 8 seconds of a video, otherwise it gets demonetized, but yeah, you can say stuff like that. I mean, there is nothing literally wrong with it. And Talbot Greaser, we're not going to write about my airline here. Just not going to do it. And Sermon51, why are we not in Alt Cruise? I can show you. If you go to Alt Cruise with time acceleration, the Phoenix is going to do, well, this. It goes into a constant Fuguid going slightly up and down. It's doing that since, I don't know, a month or two. If we just go to vertical speed 0, it just maintains the altitude a lot better, as you can see. That's the reason I'm not using Alt Cruise with the Phoenix when using time acceleration. It's unfortunate, but yeah, can't do much about it. Jakek, I do hope I pronounced your name correctly. Very good question. What would you say is better in FS24 or X-Plane 12? Of course, right now I'm using X-Plane, but MSFS is so tempting. Okay, so obviously the visuals are better in Flight Sim, and the amount of add-ons to choose from are better. Now, the physics are better in X-Plane. There is no question about it. But the physics in MSFS are still pretty good. Not as good, but ask yourself, are you really going to feel the difference with consumer-grade hardware? And that's where I say, no, probably not. With consumer-grade hardware, I'm not really noticing much of the difference between X-Plane and Microsoft Flight Simulator. And obviously if I connected some super expensive training type hardware, then yes, I would feel the difference between X-Plane and MSFS. But with your standard sticks and rudders and throttles, MSFS may be a little bit worse than X-Plane in terms of physics, but it still does the majority of it right. And we gotta remember that we are operating on a home computer here. Is the difference really gonna be that great? No, not really. So yeah, I do believe that the overall package of Microsoft Flight Simulator is superior to X-Plane, because the graphics are so much better, the availability of add-ons is just so incredibly much better. Also, add-ons are a lot cheaper on Flight Simulator, because there is a much bigger customer base. So yeah. And Rekka Pekka, what do I think about the Flight Sim Studio Embraer 190? They released it much too early. Much too early. And basically, even now, it's not there yet. And it was released 3 years ago. The FMS is a pure joke in that aircraft. But the worst of all is the way that Flight Sim Studios treats the public. Remember when they outright lied to the community when the thing was released? And when they basically sold it as study level even though it was utter crap on the original release? Yeah. Good call on that one, Flight Sim Studios. Then the community got outraged, and Flight Sim Studios realized that a major portion of the people who voiced something against them were content creators. So what did they do? Option A, admit your faults and do it better in the future. Option B, go down the legal route and create some content creator policies which make you legally liable if you are using their products and they don't like your content. Guess what? They went for option B. Have a look into their content creator policy, which, by the way, is probably not valid at all, because number one, you don't have to sign it ever. Not during your purchase, and they can't just enforce it on you afterwards. That's not how legal stuff works. So you never signed it, so technically speaking it's not binding. But just by the simple fact that they are pricks big enough to release a content creator policy like that, especially clause 1.8, just tells me to tell that company to go fuck themselves. And yeah, that's all that I think about Flight Sim Studios. So we're approaching the top of descent here, 100 miles to run. Let's go and reset that simulation rate and just go back to real time here for the approach preparation. So first things first, let's go ahead and grab ourselves some weather. So 8 is probably not gonna be any, but nonetheless, let's send it, and then we can send the weather request straight away as well for Madeira. Now, here's an interesting NOTAM. Yes, I'm reading NOTAMs occasionally. So, we'll disregard all of those. Madeira. NOTAM A5427. Valid from 20th November 2000 UTC. So basically in an hour and a half. Meteorological services limited due to industrial action. In other words, the meteorologists over there are going on strike today. I like it. I absolutely like it. Okay, apart from that though, we're not gonna get any weather anymore in an hour and a half over in Madeira. So they're probably striking from today evening, striking the entire day tomorrow, and then the day after tomorrow they're back at work. I like it. Wish them luck. In the meantime, let's go right down into our arrival charts here. We do have the on-off charts, then we can get rid of this and this. We do, however, need the visual approaches, RMP05 visual. Like that. Perfect. Okay, so, weather data. At 1800, wind 360 at 9, slightly variable, 10 kilometers, scattered 1600, 19 degrees, 1021. Now let me show you an Airbus trick. First of all, let's go into alt cruise mode over here. And there we are. So, if you're flying an autopilot 1 and you're doing a major change to the altimeter, like this, let me just dial in something significant here, we should have triggered an altitude alert. So we should have gotten the beep alert. Phoenix doesn't seem to simulate it. Okay, that's a bug. So 1021 and back to standard. Because the way you can avoid this happening in the real world is by switching over to the other autopilot. So if I would do this on this side, you know, dial in like a huge difference, like this, then we would not get the alert. You only get that on the side where the autopilot is engaged. But looks like Phoenix is not simulating that. Too bad. Kind of thought I could show you something cool here. See, that's the amount of detail that we are talking about when talking study level aircraft. If this was a PMDG aircraft where I would be a technical advisor, then I would file a report for it now. But okay, that way QNH is pre-selected now. So, that weather is actually looking fine. ATIS is not online, that's fine as well. So, very quick check of the wind speed limits. Here they are, wind limitations. The wind is variable between 330 and 030, so that means the most limiting wind at 330 is 15 knots. We do have 9 knots at the moment, so it's fine. We can fly the approach like that. The reason those wind limitations exist is because of the terrain on the approach, and if the wind is more than 15 knots coming from this area, you could expect wind shear so strong that it would not be safe to land anymore. That's the reason why we've got those wind limits established in Madeira. Alright, we do have a couple waypoints here. We got the base turn, Gelo and Rosario. Now the base turn is 3 miles from the 566 point. So let's actually go ahead and create a couple points here. So give me those. Madeira, RMP05 visual. So, pilot waypoint, new waypoint. We'll call that one base turn. And that's gonna be on, let's see, Mike Alpha 566 slash, the track is 219 and the distance 3 miles. So, base turn is created. Then let's go to the fix info page. So we got the base turn here. Then we got Gelo. And finally we've got Rosario, which is called Rosro in the FMS. Alright, let's have a look at that. So, here's what it looks like. We got Mike Alpha 566, which is the missed approach point on this approach. Thereafter we can continue straight to the base turn. Then we got Gelo and Rosario, which are now marked on our nav display. That makes it a lot easier. Now, we got that, so let's actually go ahead and check the entire approach now. So, on-off stars. Starting up here from Raccoon. By the way, whenever I hear the waypoint Raccoon, I'm always thinking of Dragon Ball. Anyone remembers the Ginyu Force? Alright, I'm getting old, I know that. So, we've got Raccoon. Then from there we are flying to Mike Alpha 534. And then we are proceeding towards Pilim above 3000. Then we got the RMP Alpha approach, Romeo 05, which starts at Pilim 3000, max 230. Then we got Mike Alpha 563 above 3000, 564 at 3000. Then for visual approach pattern to Romeo 05, see RMP visual chart. Okay, we have that. So 565, and that one is... should be at 2180. That one over here comes from here. Okay, so above 1430 is okay. And then on to 566. And we are going to level off at the circling minimum, which is 940 feet. Alright, for the go around, left turn 204 degrees to Monarch, climbing 3000. And we got track 204 to Monarch, climbing 3000. So, that looks good so far. We don't need anything on the nav 8. Then we got LPMA05 on our FMS. Now for the performance pages, 0.78, 277. Let's see, are we on time? 1545, and we arrive at 1545, okay. I'll tell you what, if we just increase that speed a little bit, say 310, then we should actually be able to make it on block on time. So let's do that. So 310, and yeah, saves a minute. That's fine. Okay, cool. So now for the weather, and for that we can quickly go over to the landing calculations here as well. Runway is dry, refresh the METAR, apply the METAR. Landing weight, let's see, 5.2 on arrival. So that means we are burning... Well, that doesn't make sense. What? Just 500 kilo? Okay. So 57.2 is going to be the landing weight. Like that. Low auto brake, idle reverse, auto thrust off, flaps full, manual landing. Looks good. 1,981 meters. Alright, and we got a QNH of 1021. Temperature down there is 19 and the wind 360 at 9. Looks good. 940 as the minimum. Config full most certainly. Transition level 5.5 is okay. And now for the engine out acceleration altitude. Let's see. Load that arrival please. 2000. within 10 miles from Pilim, thereafter 3000. Okay, then we'll do engine out acceleration in 3000 here. Let's not mess with it. So 1 hour 22 extra, even though I have no idea where that fuel comes from. And the secondary is a copy of the active. Perfect. So, auto brakes low, even though, tell you what, we do have a brake fan. Let's go auto brakes medium, then we spare ourselves the backtrack. Or so I hope. Yeah, let's try to aim for Bravo. Auto brake medium, then the brake fan is going to cool it down. Let's see what we can get here with medium auto brakes. Yeah, 1336. Easy going. Very easy going. Alright, cool. So that stuff's done. With that, we have pretty much completed the setup down there. So let's go ahead and say goodbye to our passengers, and then we can do the approach briefing. Ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck, this is your captain speaking. We are going to leave our cruising altitude and start our descent towards Madeira in the next couple of minutes. The weather in Madeira at the moment, some light wind from the north and a few clouds, a temperature of 19 degrees centigrade. We'd like to thank you very much for choosing to fly with Finnair today. Hope you have enjoyed your stay on board our Airbus, and we wish you lovely and unforgettable holidays on this lovely Portuguese island. Now, for those of you flying to Madeira for the first time, the approach leads us very close to the hills on the island, which looks spectacular but is absolutely a controlled flight maneuver, and there is nothing to worry about when the mountains are getting a little bit closer on the arrival. This is all normal procedure. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for choosing to fly with Finnair today. We hope that you have enjoyed your stay on board our Airbus A321 as much as we did, and we look forward to welcome you again on board of a future flight. Thank you very much for your attention, and we hope to see you all again soon. Alright, passengers are briefed, then I suggest we are going to go ahead with our briefing up next. So, we are departing, or rather we are arriving, via the Raccoon 1 Papa arrival, and that one leads into the RNAV Alpha approach runway 05, followed by the visual circling for runway 05. The minimum is 940 circling minimum, and we've got missed approach leading us straight towards Monac, climbing 3000. Extra fuel and time down here, 2.8 tons, 1 hour and 24 minutes. Alright, thanks. The approach will be flown raw data. So flight directors off, bird on. I will ask you to set the runway track once we are going to turn final. We've programmed pretty much all the waypoints that are belonging to the approach. So we got the base turn, and we got the all of the meaningful waypoints in here. So we are going to maintain 1000 feet altitude until the base turn. At the base turn, I want to be landing gear down and in config 2, at least turning config 3 and then full right after starting the turn to the final. Now, the approach itself is going to be flown in NAV FPA modes. So at 564, we will initiate our descent using FPA mode all the way down to 1000 feet, where we are going to level off for the approach itself. Now, I do not have any specials for that one. I do, however, have quite a couple of threats over here. So let's start with number one. That's the obvious one. That's the terrain north of the airfield. For this reason, we can go onto the terrain display there, and I'm also going to go onto the terrain display over here, because as we can see, weather is no factor anymore for the approach. It does start getting a bit turbulent here. Let's turn that seatbelt sign on already. It's more or less half an hour to the landing anyway. Okay, so, as we've just said, not much of a problem with the weather, so terrain display on all sides it is. Now, nothing special except for what we talked about. We talked about the non-standards. One more thing that's worth mentioning here is the wind limitations. 15 knots is the maximum. We'll do another wind update when we are right about here, just to be sure that we've got the very latest on board. And that's all I got. So, reaching the top of descent here, let's go ahead and start our descent down to flight level 150 at first. That's thrust idle descent alt flight level 150 blue. So there's more drag down here, nothing to worry about for the time being. Actually, I tell you what, with that turbulence, let's go selected, Mach 0.79, and then we'll just maintain that speed for the time being. I don't want to get too close to the overspeed with the turbulence here. Alright, cool. So, do you have any questions on the briefing? Well, config full, maximum reverse, exit to the right. Alright, now the briefing is complete. Okay, cool. So, looking into the chat over here again, I think you calculated the landing performance with 57.2. Okay, did I mix up the numbers? Let's quickly recheck. Of course it doesn't show me in here. Refresh, apply. Now 75.2. Medium auto brake. Yeah, you are absolutely right. We had the incorrect numbers earlier. It's 1,522 meters. Very well spotted in the chat. Link A320, you spotted that one very well. And Subin 2003, with that we've rechecked our performance figures as well. Excellent. So I think that's all we had to do over here. We talked about the wind situation. We talked about the terrain, obviously. Alright. Cool. So that's everything completed. Now, let's see. Estimated time of arrival, 43. That's in 16 minutes. Now, someone's been asking in the chat again on how to use time acceleration here with the Phoenix. So let me just show you one more time. That's under MCDU menu. When you go to maintenance, and over here you can select the sim rate up. I'm usually using 4x over here. Let's just use that to get a little closer here. And speed 320, no more than that, please. 1,400 above the profile, not much of a problem. And no worries, guys, at about 15,000 I'll take it out of acceleration, then we'll fly the rest in real time. Andres, you can select different charts in the EFB settings. You can choose between Jeppesen or Lido if you're in FS24. On the other ones, only Jeppesen is available. And Coke R9D, do I think it's worth switching to FS24? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely do. And not just now. I've done the switch a year ago already. It was a little hard on the first couple of weeks, but now it's actually working pretty well. And it's been doing that for a while. Let's go down to 100. And then I think we absolutely have to take it out of time acceleration now. So maintenance, reset sim rate. Here we go. So back to real time and right back on the approach. Alright then, let's descend down to 4,000. Well, actually we can go to 3,000, which is the platform altitude already. That's flight level 30 blue, set QNH. QNH 1021 cross-check, passing 14,800 now. Checked. 700 high on profile, not much of a problem. Unfortunately, no traffic in the area here at the moment, no controller online as well. Alright, we can live with that. So, I would say, since about everything is done, let's go right for the approach checklist, shall we? So, Barrow Ref, QNH 1021, seatbelts on, minimum Barrow 940, auto brake, medium, engine, mode selector, norm, approach checklist complete. So that's Porto Santo down here. That's also where our alternate airport is located. And as you can see, we've got absolutely beautiful weather down here on the alternate. So that's absolutely usable. Back in the day when I flew in my previous airline, we always had to write down the weather for the alternate as well, which most people did not do. But yeah, when you flew over this, you just wrote observed cavalcade into the flight plan. Oh yeah, we did read that rather often. Speed, and we're getting back on profile. Superb. So let's go ahead and manage that speed. Thrust idle. So going back towards 250. Cabin crew, prepare for landing. And Elton, Simwings Munich is now native with FS24. Superb, really looking forward to that. Simwings Munich is really one of my favorite sceneries, because the performance is just so incredibly good with it, so I'm looking forward to fly there. And Elton, the weather we are using is the real-time weather, because we are required to use that by the VATSIM rules. Normally when I would record a flight like this offline, I would use the correct weather for the actual time in the sim, but on VATSIM we are required to use the actual real-life weather, so that we sync in with any of the other traffic. Which does make sense if you think about it. And Nirtak, what's my opinion on the FS Project side stick? I actually don't have an opinion on it yet. I am absolutely going to check it out, but I do not have an opinion on it yet because I just haven't spent much time looking into it just yet. So going through 10,000, landing lights on, signs on, EFIS is set, and we got GPS primary high accuracy, which we do need for the RNAV approach anyway, and the engine mode selector is a norm. More drag is checked. I disagree. So, 5 hours and 17 minutes in the air on the A321. It's just lovely, isn't it? I mean, I probably wouldn't want to do that, especially on a CO. On a Neo, okay, that thing is rather quiet, but imagine sitting like here, behind the engines, on a CO for 5.5 hours straight. Man, I do hope that you remember to charge your A&R headphones. Man, I don't like this pitching that the airplane is doing here. Let's go selected 250. Thrust idle, open descent. And then we'll just help it a little bit. So give me half speed brake, please. Darren, we do not need the LS button for this approach. LS is only if you are going to fly something straight in, if your airplane is equipped with FLS. If it's not equipped with FLS, then you only use LS for an ILS approach. And Kakashi, definitely not gonna do a tour into the cabin on approach to Madeira. Sorry. And Charlie, yeah, might very well be that they had to make a stopover in, what's it called? In Faro on the way back. If the wind does not favor you on a flight like this, it can easily add an hour flight time, which the plane may not be able to do. So, looks like we'll be level by 563. I want to be level a bit earlier though, so let's go full speed brake here. Then we can activate the approach phase. Cool. And here we go, Madeira comes into sight. Approaching. So half speed brake, and we do have a 230 limit over P-lim, so let's start reducing that speed. $1,000 to go. So, vertical speed minus 1,000, managed speed. Looks like we'll level off just prior to 564, that's perfect. And flaps 1. Speed checked. Flaps 1. You get a speed brake caution here. Well, that's fine. Speed brake is retracted. Okay, the bird is on. We do have 18 knots of tailwind. That is noted. Cabin pressure, low differential pressure, expect high cabin rate. No, that's not gonna happen. Clear cabin pressure. Status, remove status. Ecam actions complete. Alt star. Okay, we're 0.3 miles from the descent. FPA -3. And altitude 1000 is set. Frontal traffic, Finnair 36 Mike, over at P-lim for the unofficial runway 05. Come on, give me that chart, please. So 566, we're gonna reach 1000 over here, and thereafter we will continue on the with the deceleration on those 3 miles. So there's the field in sight. Ooh, it's automatically retracting the flaps here. Well, gear down. Then we need some drag. Okay, flaps up and flaps 1 again, please. That way we do get the flaps extended again. Or at least we should. Might have to wait until they're all the way up. That's fine though. Alt star, speed is below the limit, flaps 2. Speed checked, flaps 2. And nope, you are not gonna turn away. Track 223, please. Alt track. So, flaps 3, speed checked, flaps 3, and flaps full. Speed checked, flaps full. Lights on. Okay, approaching the base turn, autopilot off. So, auto thrust off. Reaching the base turn. Ooh, that was a bit too much thrust. Still gotta get used to the new thrust levers. So, flight directors off, bird on. Well, bird is on already. Set go around altitude. 3000 set, so we need 850 overhead galo. Landing checklist, Ecam memo, landing no blue, landing checklist complete. continue. So there's the lead-in lights. Right now the wind is still rather strong. Control traffic, Finnair 36 Mike, turning final, runway 05. So we should be in 850.
Don't sink.
No.
Don't sink.
Ah, God, F you. GPWS off. And then next is going to be 460 over at Rosario. We're passing Gelo now. Ooh, a little bit of wind shear here. Well, not actual wind shear, but quite some gusts.
Approaching 05.
Checked. And here we are.
500.
Yep, continue.
$300. 100. 50, 40, 30, 20. Retard.
Spoilers, reverse green. Decel. That was a lovely touchdown. 70 knots. Manual brakes. Alright, beautiful. 5 hours and 26 minutes. Welcome to Funchal. So, down to 10 knots, then we can vacate the runway to the right hand side. And here we are. Lovely. That was absolutely lovely. So, there is one Air Portugal over here. We'll be parking to the right of him. But first things first, start APU. I'm going to do the rest once we are completely clear of the runway system here. Control traffic, Finnair 36 Mike, runway 05 vacated. Okay. Here we are. So, spoilers disarmed, weather radar off, flaps are going up. And TCAR standby. So, we'll be parking to the right of the Air Portugal here. Give me the parking chart, please. So that's going to be about Alpha 7 or something the likes. So, GSX, main apron, Alpha 7. No follow me needed, handling by Menzies. Right, after landing checklist, radar and predictive wind shear, off after landing checklist complete. Then we can also turn the GPWS back on already. Having to turn that one off is... And Elton, I'm sorry, I just read your comment too late. Missed Alpha 12, I'm afraid. So, lights going off, and here is Alpha 7. Alright, 3, 2, 1, stop. That wasn't too bad. Okay, parking brake is set, APU bleed is on. 1, 2. Cabin crew, all doors in park. Okay, and with that, welcome to Funchal. That's sector number 1 completed. Engines are running down, the bacon is going off. Yeah, request your deboarding, but do that in the background, please. Alright, slides are disarmed, seatbelts off, external power on. Parking checklist. Parking brake trucks. Well, flight at ground. Yeah, go. Hello, welcome to Madeira. Trucks in position, ground power is available, and you can release the brakes. Thank you, parking brakes are released, the airplane is fine, don't touch it. Alright, and parking checklist. Parking brake trucks, trucks in position, engines off, wing light off, fuel pumps off, parking checklist complete. 19 degrees, that means we can shut the APU down, and here we go. Oh, hello there. Aren't you supposed to be working? No comment on that, huh? GSX. I mean, to be fair, they're trying to be nice here, and they're doing that when you do a good parking, they say. We'll keep it at that. We'll just pretend. So, looks like they're just connecting the stairs here. So, you can deboard, please, and now let's do the most important thing of all. 19 degrees. Gotta enjoy that weather, do we? Alright, cool. So, they should start deboarding any moment now. It is a walk-in position after all. Okay, I gotta say we parked quite nice. Right on the point. Oh man, that was fun. That was really fun. And here come our passengers already. APU should be shutting down any moment now, so it's not gonna be loud for too long here. And well then, I would say, let's go ahead and go outside already for our walk around. Alrighty. They're actually walking inside. I like it. Or are they? Let's just check where they're actually walking. I want to know that now. Yeah, they are. Okay. Hi, how are you doing? So, do you have anything special for our upcoming return flight? No? Beautiful. We'll let you know the fuel figures in a few moments. And, yeah, let's just try to get this done as quickly as possible. It's a long day for us. Oh, and the other Finnair just landed. Ha, nice. Alright, cool. So, let's go ahead and do a little bit of flight planning here while the deboarding is ongoing. So, this is the last airplane that did this flight in the real world. And if we go over here, so that's gonna be our return flight. Finnair 7 Papa Whiskey. Let's go ahead and do that one. And we just got private message here from the Air Portugal. Thank you so much. So let's log in as 7 Papa Whiskey here. Superb, call sign is still available. So, Finnair 7 Papa Whiskey. Then we can go into SimBrief and start a little bit of planning. So, this is flight number 1732. So Fin 1732 from Funchal. Oh, that was wrong. Funchal to Hell on an A321. Now let SimBrief do its job. Here we go. The airplane is an A321IE with 2 additional center tanks. Cost index 15 as far as I'm aware. And we are flying the, what is it, Oscar Hotel, Lima Zulu Hotel? Actually gotta walk to the wing here. Yeah, Oscar Hotel, Lima Zulu Hotel it is. Okay, cool. Alternate, definitely not going to be in Russia. Let's take Stockholm. Actually, what about Tallinn? Echo, Echo, Tango, November. That should be best, shouldn't it? Yeah, that is best. Good weather for our arrival time. So that's absolutely perfect. So Tallinn it is. Cool. Estimated off-block time. Let's see. They are departing at 16:35 in the real world. So 16:35. Apply. No runway changes, please. So from a scheduled block time of 16:35 until 22:15. If I'm not totally mistaken, that's 5 hours and 40 minutes. So 5:40 is selected, departing runway 05, arriving probably runway 22 left. Select new arrivals. Here we go. Not sure where that error comes from. Okay, so passengers, they have 209 seats in that airplane. So let's say we're gonna fly with 195. That should be a rather okay load factor. Then let's do calculate and compare, see what we're gonna get. So 5 hours 38, that looks quite okay. Let's go over a couple of those routes. Just to see what's gonna come up. Nope, half an hour extra, I'm not gonna do that. That's 2 minutes extra. And not gonna do that, okay. Then route number 1 was the best route available already. Cool, so let's go ahead and keep that one. Finally, alternate airports, what do we have down here? Tallinn. Yeah, no, definitely not gonna fly to Russia. Alright, I think that is fine like this. Maybe Tampere should be added as well. Let's see. Echo... Fox Tango Papa. Okay, that is looking better. So last but not least, en route alternate. We're gonna choose Stockholm for that. And then I think we've got the entire flight planning done. So let's generate the flight plan. And that is looking good. Flight level 320, 340, 350. That definitely sounds doable. The weights are all fine as far as I can tell. Alright, looks good. Then we can pre-file that one onto VATSIM. So pre-file network, VATSIM. Now, oh, we actually got an incorrect call sign. Okay, added flight. Keep pass time, and it should be the Finnair 7 Papa Whiskey, like that. Generate. John, why do we use 4 alternates? Well, that's basically because we want options on our plan. The actual fuel alternate is Tallinn up here, but we do want the options available. So, file, VATSIM, off-block time, that's obviously going to be adjusted to the real world, and we'll make that 1930. Alright, file flight plan. Perfect, with that our flight plan is filed, and then we can start the actual walk-around for our way back. And before we do that, let's just quickly run back up into the flight deck here, so that we can get our refueling going. Come on, keep moving. So, my flights. Import next flight. Off block in 36, that's looking okay. So, let's go ahead and have a look at what we just generated here. That's flight plan number 2, Finnair 7 Papa Whiskey from Funchal to Hell. And all of this stuff above here looks good. Let's have a look at the important things. So, weather. Tempo from 1800 until tomorrow, 030 at 18, gust 30. That's Madeira though, so no problem. Then Helsinki is actually okay. So today should be totally fine. Tallinn, likewise, tomorrow is gonna be when the snow showers are going to be. So for today everything's good up here. We're going to arrive behind schedule, so let's consider taking some fuel to fly faster. Costnx 100 plus 400 kilos saves 6 minutes. Let's do that. So we got 19.5 plus taxi plus that fuel for Costnx 100. Let's call it 20 tons because we know that it uses a little bit less fuel than what SimBrief actually calculates. So we'll call that 20 tons up here. Like that, and then we can go ahead and use GSX for boarding and refueling, please. And while that is in progress, let's go out for the walk around. Alrighty. So, starting up here, we got our pitot tubes, which are in a good shape. We got the oxygen discharge disc, which is in place and green. And then we can have a look at the landing gear over here. Our lights are in a good shape. That's the runway turn-off light, that's the taxi light over here. Well, no, actually that's wrong. This is the taxi light in the taxi position, and this is the takeoff position. And down here is the runway turn-off lights, that way around. Alright, so nose wheel definitely is looking fantastic over here. Okay, so then let's move further. The tap probe is in a good condition, static port is fine, and then moving around the nose, everything is fine over here. So let's go back again. The tap probe is just fine, the pitot tube is in a good shape as well. Then we got the static port, which is in a good condition. And now let's make our way back. And if we are here already, let's quickly have a look into the refueling panel. So, you should be pre-selected to 20 tons down here. Come on, not 20.4. Slightly decrease that. Here we go, 20 tons. They normally select like 100 more, that's fine. So 20.1 is pre-selected down here. Alright, so leading edges are in a good shape. Our V2500 engine is actually in a good condition as well. Looks like the fueler just arrived. Good afternoon, how are you doing? So, we need 20 tons, please. That's pretty much how this would go in the real world as well. Provided that they speak English, which is not always the case. Well, in Portugal they're good. Gotta give them that. It's rather Spain where the language is a barrier. Alright, so the green light is still operating. The entire winglet is in a good shape. Then let's walk inwards again. Check for any sign of bird strike damage. Madeira really is one of those places where you got a huge number of birds. So always gotta be a bit careful when you're there. And inspect everything very, very carefully. Looks like the brakes are rather worn on this plane, but still within an okay shape. Alright then, tailplane is looking good, catering is in progress. Outflow valves are in a good condition, leading edges are looking good. I like it. Alright. So, everything good everywhere, then let's go back forward to the left-hand wing. And Panda Boy in the comments, make sure the engine is still attached. Yeah, I hope so. Alright, everything looking good though. On this one, then let's check the trailing edge. The engine exhaust is looking good. They are rotating a bit with that wind, no surprises. Alright, the wing is in a good shape. just like it should be. Then let's move back in. Check the leading edge, the engine, and cowling is closed. Man, they really need to clean this airplane again. I mean, all this dirt on here would be an invitation to draw the logo of your union into that. That's typically how you can get them to clean an engine pretty quickly. Alright, airplane is in a fine shape. Last things here, the AOA vane and the static ports. Excellent, the airplane's looking good. Then let's go back up. Alright, pretty empty. They haven't even started boarding yet. Yoo-hoo. Alright, here we are. So, what's the temperature on board? 22. Beautiful. Fueling is already in progress. Boarding should start any moment. I like it. And Music T, don't plan Copenhagen right now. Delays due to snow and broken machinery. Yeah, I guess. K1 Army, I'm using the italic scenery for Madeira. And Egby, why did we turn the APU off? They leave it on when they have a turnaround. No, they don't. Whether or not you are using the APU depends on whether you need air conditioning or electrical power. We have ground power, so the electrical power is not required. The temperature is 19 degrees, it's cloudy. Why would you be using air conditioning here? You don't need to. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. So aircraft's still in a fine technical shape, nothing changed there. The oxygen pressure is good, hydraulic quantity is good, engine oil quantity is good. That's all looking fantastic. Well, I suppose then we can go right into the setup. So flight recorder is coming back online, everything looks good here. Seatbelts remain off since we are refueling, the same goes for the fuel pumps, we don't need to do any tests. And the right side set as well. Down here everything is done, timer is reset, frequencies can stay as they are, all of that stuff is looking good. Alright, perfect. By the way, what is the brake temperature? 210, okay. I'm pretty sure that would have been quite a bit hotter in the real world, but ain't gonna complain about it, are we? So, MCU menu, add to AOC menu, flight init, request. Now let's wait until it has done this. And Darwin, does the italic Madeira scenery run heavy on my computer as well? No, not really. I haven't noticed anything. Okay, so that stuff is here. Flight is initialized. Well, ATIS is not going to be online, so let's just go ahead and request the METAR. Send. So, arrival message. On block at 49. That was 4 minutes delayed. That's okay. Load sheet. Well, that's number 1. We don't need that. Number 2. We don't need that. Number 3. We might need that. So, Finnair 7 Papa Whiskey from Funchal to Hell. On the Lima Zulu Hotel. 2 pilots, 5 cabin crews. Limiting factor is the takeoff weight today, which is 5,376 kilos. That's fine. 195 passengers, and they have calculated with full portable water. We definitely wouldn't have that anymore. And 20 tons of fuel in the tanks. That's looking good. Can accept that load sheet. And for the weather data, from 1900 040 at 20, light showers of rain. Interesting. Broken 16, 19 over 1021. Perfect. We have all of that. Looking good. Okay, so let's initiate the performance uplink here. So, F-plan, Madeira, departure 05. Where are we going? Let's get ourselves the EFB here. So, Funchal to Helsinki, we are using the Mark 1 Echo departure. Which is that one. Insert. Now for the arrival into Helsinki, 22 left, and they got the Lakut 7 Alpha arrival, which is that one here. No via, looks good, and insert.
Madeira traffic, Ocean 1.
Now for the engine outs, that's gonna be a little bit more interesting here. So we can program that FMCX 1 point based on LPM A05 slash, let's see what that's gonna be, 049 and 25 miles straight. Not 100% sure if that would be accurate in the real world right now, but I suppose it's the best data we're gonna get here. And honestly, there isn't very much ahead of the runway, so might as well continue straight. I will program an arrival to Madeira here, in case of an immediate return, but whether we are gonna fly that or not is a whole different story. I'll just program it that way, and after all we are visual for the departure anyway. Oh, we forgot to fill something out on the init page here. So, Finnair 7 Papa Mike, cost index 15 and flight level 320. And the temperature up there is going to be minus 49. Ground temperature 19. Okay, cool. Then let's go for the step altitudes. We got level 340 at Lottie. So that one, and then we got 350 at Aduto. Like that. Perfect. Alright, cool. So, init B page. Let's get our load sheet again for that one. So, 68.4
traffic, Ocean 1 X-ray Lima and final runway 25.
And 26.2. Fuel 20, and then let's see. We got 0.6 contingency, 1 alternate, and 1.2 final. Wind component, headwind 16, like that, and that leaves us 1.6 extra, 47 minutes. Okay, let's also do a wind data request here, and then we can go on to our takeoff data. Again, not sure why this is not synchronizing, but here we go. So, flaps to 38 degrees. And the speed's 4350, 153. Noise abatement procedure 2, engine out 1500 and LPM A05. Good. And Mr. C Aviation for the engine out 5.5 give me fun left right turn to Fusul. Okay. Alright, gonna look into that. Definitely going to look into that. The question is, can we program it? Probably not too well, so let's just tune Funchal VOR. But let's go ahead and insert that. So we'll go to Funchal 5.5. Well, first question first. Funchal is 4.8, so they actually want us to proceed straight. So Funchal is more or less on the extended center line. So yeah, fun/049/5.5, PBD1, and then towards Fusul. What has that just done? Here we go. And then we'll pick up a holding over there. We'll just do it this way. So, and now for the fix info. We've got Madeira with the runway track, then Funchal. Can it do 5.5? Yeah, well, it's going to 6, that's fine. And then Fusul. Okay, cool. So now the correct engine outset is in here as well. Alright, all the remaining stuff looks good. Boarding is completed. Refueling is gonna take another few minutes, but will be done very soon. I like it. So, actually we still need this. So, Madeira, ANAV sits runway 05. And we got the Mach 1 Echo departure, which is straight ahead. On the runway track, then number 1, establish on track 087 before proceeding to the next waypoint. So we got, well, 600, and thereafter we are proceeding to Mike Alpha 647 above 4000. That's in here, that looks good. Then a left turn towards Marku. And that's it already. Perfect. Alright, so that thing is checked. Now let's see if we've already got the final load sheet. But no, it's not here yet. Probably waiting for the refueling to complete, which is fine. Alright, nonetheless, let's say hello to our passengers. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening from the flight deck. This is your captain speaking. My name is Emmanuel, and in the name of Finnair, I would like to welcome you aboard our Airbus A321 on our flight to Helsinki. The flight time today is going to be approximately 5 hours and 45 minutes, expecting a smooth flight. For the time being, just sit back, relax, and make yourself comfortable, and if there is anything we can do for you to make it more enjoyable, please don't hesitate to ask any of our charming cabin crew members. Thank you very much for your attention and for being on board with us. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight with us. And interesting, quite a couple of you are talking about extensive buffering in the stream here. The problem is I can't see anything in my Streamlabs that would indicate this. So I'm not sure what to do about it, really. I mean, I suppose... I don't know. I'm afraid I really don't know what to do about this. Sorry. Okay, anyway, let's go ahead and keep going. Hopefully it's going to fix itself a little bit later on. So what are we gonna do? Well, we are gonna turn on the flight directors here and select our initial climb to 5000. So here we go, everything is set up here. We're waiting for the refueling, which is going to be done in a minute or two. And that's that. Okay, cool. So everything's done. Refueling is complete. Seatbelts coming on. Then let's do our departure briefing, please. So we're departing Madeira, runway 05. It is going to be the Mach 1 Echo departure, initial climb 5000, MSA 3000 over the water. Extra fuel and time, let's see what we got here. 1.7 tons, 50 minutes, which is interesting. I mean, this really means there's got to be an error in the calculation of our fuel figures in SimBrief. Not sure why, but yeah, I suppose there isn't all that much that we can do about this. Alright, cool. So, yeah, that's my part of the briefing. Thank you for that. Now we are going to depart from Funchals runway 05, and I'll just set the parking brake here so that GSX starts getting ready. Alright, departing Funchals runway 05, no hotspots. We have to backtrack, however, and the stop margin in case of a rejected takeoff is going to be not calculated again. Here we go, 137 meters. Now, in case of we proceed straight ahead to 5.5 DME outbound from Funchal View, to then decide on the further course of action. If we're on fire and there isn't much we can do to extinguish it, then we'll just return with the RMP Alpha approach, followed by the circling for runway 05 again. And just be aware, even though the airplane may be coming apart, we gotta fly that approach properly. We're not going to rush anything, otherwise the airplane is surely coming apart by the time we impact the terrain. So, I know that you are not a German first officer here, but we are not going to go into the mountains today. Okay, apart from that, nothing special, nothing non-standard. The SID has an early right-hand turn, climb to 5000, and that's pretty much everything I can offer you today. Any questions or suggestions? No? Alright, perfect. Then our briefing is completed. Cockpit preparation checklist, please. Gear pits and covers removed. Fuel quantity 19,970 kilograms balanced. Seatbelts on. ADIRs. Nav. Yeah, they're within limits. Not nice. We could have done a realignment, but they're okay. ADS nav and barrel ref QNH 1021. Cockpit preparation checklist complete. Okay, cool. So that stuff's done. Then let's go ahead and get ready for our pushback. And you should be on 2000, please. Squawk 2000, here we go. Okay, lovely. There is no traffic anywhere around us, so might as well just announce the push ourselves. In the meantime, come on. Why is that window not closing? Smash that closed here. Here we go, that's better, isn't it? So, with our new takeoff data, we got flaps 2, up trim 0.9 and 37 degrees. So 2/up 0.9 and 37 degrees. And the takeoff speeds are 43, 52, 54. Slightly heavier than originally anticipated. Here we go, that is looking fantastic. Alright, so that's all in, then let's go for the pushback. Funchal traffic, Finnair 7 Papa Mike, pushing back, stand Alpha 7. So, ground flight deck, go ahead. Please confirm that all doors and hatches are closed, ground equipment is removed, and the bypass pin is installed. That's all confirmed. Okay, thanks, then you're clear to push, and we are going to use runway 05. So, nose to the right. Okay, release parking brake, please. Parking brake released. Thank you. Starting the pushback, and you are clear to start the engines at your discretion. Alright, so we are on the way. V4 start checklist. Parking brake released, takeoff speeds and thrust, V1 143, VR 152, V2 154, flex 37, windows, closed, bacon, tasty, V4 start checklist complete. So it cleared the road, ground flight deck, starting engines 1 and 2 in that sequence. Engine 1 start. So yeah guys, I'm really not 100% sure what's causing that buffering and the occasional black screen. My video editor doesn't show me anything. Normally Streamlabs would tell me if anything is wrong, but today it doesn't, so just let me know in the chat if there is still anything strange going on. So, scheduled off block was 35. We are 11 minutes early. Lovely. And we've got a good start number 1, starting engine number 2. Clear 2, and the push is completed. Set park and brake, please. Park and brake set. Thank you, stand by. And we do have a company message. Let's see what that is. Another load sheet. Did we forget to enter that? Well, let's do it now then. So we had 68.4 and now it's 68.7. So we're 300 kilos heavier. And 26.2, that is correct. $68.7 giving us 88.7, and well, can accept this. So 88.5 takeoff weight, and we had calculated that anyway. Perfect. So ground, we got 2 good engine starts. Please prepare the airplane for taxi. See you on the left and have a good day. Bye bye. And there she is. Okay, trim up 0.9. Here we go. Should be about 25 units, huh? Yeah, it is. Excellent. So, after start checklist, please. Anti-ice off, ecom status checked, pitch trim 25%, rudder trim neutral,